Emery, good morning, sir.
Hey, good morning, Paul. Nice to see you again.
Always a
It's
pleasure. How you doing?
very cool, very good. It is winter in full effect here in South Africa, which just means rain and a little colder than normal.
Yep.
But other than that, well, not even other than that, everything's great. It's been a very productive week. This is the second time we're live streaming this week too, which is kind of cool. So that's fun. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, awesome. Well, we have sort of a continuation today, I think, of our last meeting or last stream, which was um, on Tuesday, and we were able to introduce a few of our EIRs, which is pretty cool. And I think what we sort of discussed about for today for the agenda is we're going to try to get more of the EIRs on so that we can introduce them and they can introduce themselves, of course, give them their challenges. Each person's starting to get familiarized with their projects that they're going to be working on. So it'd be great for them to be able to introduce, what they're doing and why they got into this, this crazy experiment called entrepreneurship. And then on top of that, I thought we have a curriculum that we put together, which is probably a good idea if we're going to be teaching entrepreneurship at some level, at any level. But we kind of went a little off script this week in terms of actually not going through the week by week sort of month over month process that we had written out. And next week we're going to get full tilt back into that, so we're going to go right from the top. But because we have a few folks in the group that are already sort of a few weeks, if not a couple of months into developing out their project, because we did start a bit of a sort of a pre accelerator, if you will, a couple of months ago as we were preparing for this and bringing on additional EIRs, entrepreneurs in residence. What I think would be useful is to give a bit of a lesson on marketing and why marketing. I mean, there's so many things in entrepreneurship that you need to kind of worry about, but there's a special type of marketing that startups need to really worry about, and it's very different than a mature company has to deal with. Obviously, whether you're trying to grow a existing company or a company that's brand new, there's always going to be challenges. But I think that the entrepreneur and startup challenges is very unique. And I feel just from my experience working with a lot of entrepreneurs, most of the time, I think they go very traditional. They kind of try to do marketing like a bigger company does. And having managed multiple digital agencies in my career, also working as a marketing professional for other companies and a designer, I think that I've seen the distinction very clearly. And I've also talked to many entrepreneurs that really struggle with this side of the business, getting that early traction, and especially if they haven't fundraised, so that they don't have a lot of money to burn, or money, well, maybe not to burn, but they don't have a lot of money to spend on marketing. They're very constrained with how much money they can spend early on to chase the magical traction that everybody wants to get. So the first step for every business is to get product market fit. And once you do that, then the type of marketing you're going to do is going to change, right? Because now you're scaling. Now you're trying to, really maximize different channels and get, more profitability, higher return on investment, land grab, a lot of other things that you're thinking about. And then also you have customers now, so you're also thinking about the post customer experience and how you remarket and brand. So we're not going to worry about any of that because we need to get out of the gate. So I think what will be helpful for the guys that are actually coming in is for them to, guys and girls that are coming in, for them to really think about this from day one. Okay, and we're going to be going through everything from product development, operations, financing, all the different areas of the business. But we're going to sort of, I think, plant a flagpole to say, hey, you know what? Regardless of where you're coming in, startup marketing is something that we need to give you, a lot of attention on, and you need to give yourself a lot of attention thinking about these things. So there is a pretty cool process that we're going to go through. I think just for continuity's sake, we're going to do that after we introduce the entrepreneurs, and we'll get into what we can call sort of traction marketing, or and there's a framework that we'll introduce to the EIRs today. And so whether they're already sort of working on the project and they're kind of in the process of prototyping and trying to get something launched a little earlier than some of the other group that might be sort of more ready about 3 months from now, or it's somebody who's thinking about building that product out, this framework actually works really well to do customer validation, and you can start it during the prototyping phase. So that's the cool thing. It's like it works either way, whether you already have a product or a prototype, or whether you are thinking about building something. And it's going to work for any company who is probably up to about 5 years old. It's roughly the startup sort of phase. Sometimes it's a little longer for some of us. Sometimes it's a little shorter, but 5 years is pretty typical. And then you're starting to become more of a early growth company and getting more into an established business. But this will work for anybody. This framework will work for anybody that's in that phase. And it was developed not by us. We are trying to always study the best and curate and model the best operators in the business. And so we'll introduce a framework that was developed by a very successful entrepreneur. And I'll leave us in suspense until we
well, that's
until
it.
we introduce
you and I have had this conversation a bunch of times. I know we've gone back and forth consistently on the best way to approach this, especially if we're going to be e-commerce focused. What do we start with? How do we, sort of start tying in and dispelling as much information and knowledge as we have from, a couple decades of doing this successfully. And yeah, I like the idea of starting with marketing, knowing where it's going to fit, what it's going to look like, how to go about it. I'm glad that that's what we've settled on. And it's something to keep in mind consistently. I mean, even with the companies that we're working with right now that are at a much later stage, marketing is still the question: is how do we position this? How do we brand it? How does this, how is this supposed to look? And what's the intention of putting all of this together, and in what way? So it's a lot of very basic, fundamental questions that I'm glad that we're starting with.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. And there's, there's so many different ways that we can play this game, right? But again, one of the things that's distinctive about Darkhorse, and one of the reasons why we started this accelerator, is because we wanted to bring a little bit of something different to the table. And so my experience has been that normally this is still an important part of the process, but it's kind of like just one pillar that it gets introduced partway through the curriculum, and it's not really treated with as much emphasis as we're going to treat it with. And it really is a killer app. It really is something that if you get it right and you know how to do marketing really well, you almost can have a mediocre product and still win. Whereas the other side of that isn't really true necessarily, where you can have an amazing product, but your marketing's just out of sorts, and you might just get buried under a sea of competitors that are just better than you at introducing themselves to a demanding audience, right? And so that's basically I think why we're kind of emphasizing this part, not to take anything away from building great product, because we actually believe that that's really important too. But
I love the qualifier. Just make sure it's just like, no, we actually like all of this stuff. It's not just because we feel like it.
That's right. I really appreciate good products. That's the only thing I buy personally. So I appreciate when, if you're going to build something, let's build something that's cool, that people actually love, not just empty promises, right? Like, because marketing can give you empty promises just as well, right?
Yeah.
So awesome. So let's get, I'm excited. Let's get some of the other EIRs in and introduce them really quickly. Before we do that, for anybody, on these live streams, basically every time we sort of come on, we'll quickly introduce who we are. You saw the video, so that pretty much tells you everything you need to know. It's a live action 6-month accelerator that is building projects with about 20 entrepreneurs from South Africa and Canada mainly, with a couple of folks that are also global. And we're going to be doing this for 6 months. We just started, so you'll see us right till the end of the year at this point. And we're excited about the projects. They're all direct to consumer at this point, mostly e-commerce type projects, but we have a couple of SaaS companies as well. And the goal and the reason why we're live streaming it, of course, is because if you end up joining, this as a individual that's sort of watching, and you are thinking about building a project, the goal here is that we're going to give you more information, more strategy, more structure than you would normally get in a highlight reel, which is what you can probably find on the internet right now if you're looking at entrepreneurship. So we're really trying to give you the sort of behind the scenes, the secret sauce, if you will, of building out a company. All the coaches that are running the Accelerator, all the partners like Paul and I are entrepreneurs. We've all been doing our own businesses for, many years, if not a few decades. So without aging any of us, but we've been in the game, and we are currently operators. We're not retired. So we,
unfortunately
we're working
not.
on stuff. Yeah, unfortunately not. We can't afford to retire.
But like, would we actually retire if we had the option, Emery?
I don't think so. No, that's it's playing the long game. Not until it's going to be another 25 years for me at least, right? I'm hoping if I'm still around, right? But basically, there's no reason to retire anytime soon.
I love the mentality of like, I'm going to keep building companies as long as I don't get hit by a bus. It's like, yeah,
that's right.
Thanks, Emery. Right. Yeah, that sounds fine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's so many different ways to take ourselves out, right? But a bus would actually be not too bad because it's nice and quick.
Great.
I'm hoping it's nice and quick. That would be really bad if you get hit by a bus and you're like, man, you couldn't even finish me off quick,
Yeah, you know what? And mid program here, we're doing a tier list of this whole things as well, so we can figure it out.
Exactly. Well, we have to introduce our bucket list on this call just in case there you
go.
But awesome. So. So that's a little bit about us. Paul and I have some backgrounds that it doesn't even matter. Honestly, let's talk about the ERs. You'll get to know us if you go back a lesson. We talked about ourselves.
Absolutely.
So go back a class if you're joining us there. Anyway, let's get into it with the ERs. I'm excited about getting them on and getting them going. They're all starting new projects or they're working on something that they just recently started, and we're giving them challenges today, and we're getting them to introduce themselves and sort of let us know what they've been up to.
Awesome. You ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
Awesome.
Hello.
Evening, guys. How are you?
Nice to see you, Nadabi. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Good to see you too.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm liking the style, man. I'm liking the style. This what does your hat say? Sorry, I can't even read it. I don't know why. I think it's
It says Berlin, I think.
Berlin. Oh, nice.
Berlin, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. One of my favorite cities that I've never been to.
It's just the color. It has nothing to do with, I don't know much about Berlin. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, you know what? I'm a fan of most things German because I was born there. So you know what? If you're wearing a German thing, I'm probably going to be happy with you. If you're driving a German vehicle, I'm pretty happy about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've never been to Berlin. Funny enough, I've been to Munich and a few other places there, but not Berlin, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. Anyway, it's not interesting. Let's talk about you. That's more interesting. What are you up to, Nadabi? Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us why you're doing this crazy thing, this journey into entrepreneurship? What propelled you down this path, and how did you find your way into starting to work on a project with us?
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Ndabe Zintle. I'm from South Africa. Basically, what led me to this project was my interest in business. So currently, I'm a business science student. I'm based in Durban. So the reason why I decided to join this program was because I felt like my curriculum didn't expose me to enough practical like real life experience of running your own business. So I'm hoping with this opportunity, I'll be able to get that opportunity to get like real life exposure to starting your own business. Because now I feel like with what I'm doing, it's like they're just preparing me for a job, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a job kind of person. I figured that out. So I'm thinking by me being part of this program, probably gonna figure a way to get out of the rat race.
It's a good reason. Yeah. Well, so I think that's it's funny. A lot of us start entrepreneurship for similar reasons, right? Like we want freedom.
Yeah.
Why do you want freedom? That's, I guess, my next question for you. Why do you want to get out of the rat race? First of all, like what is like, okay, you're out of the rat race now. What happens to you? How does that help you?
I think
like what does that do for you?
No, I think there are people who are just meant to race. There are people who are happy with that kind of life. For me personally, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to, in my old age, to sit back and think I could have done more than this. I mean, the conveyor belt of life, where you just go to school, you finish grad school, you get a job, you start a family, you retire, and you die. I don't want to live like that. So I also want to live, like your Elon Musk, where you're gonna leave your mark in the world. Like this person did this. You can't be remembered for being a good clerk. No one cares about. I mean, it's just a job. It's just putting food on the table. So I'm hoping with this opportunity, I'll be able to. Because what I like the most about this program is that it seems to be a good. It's a group of people who are. I would like to say intelligent, from what I've gathered. And it's people who are like-minded, who are innovative, who want more than just what is available to us in the world. So this is actually, it's inspiring for me to be part of this program.
Awesome. That's a great answer. And it's good to be self-aware. I mean, I think what's great is that you're recognizing fairly early in your career that you want to it sounds to me like you want to have impact. That's what I'm hearing, right? So you're like you say, you don't want to have any regrets. You don't want to go back and go, I could have had a higher potential in the world. I could have done something greater, and I'm questioning, what that could have been, and I never had a chance to explore that. And I think that's we chase the freedom early, but we start to realize that the freedom gives us an opportunity to do so much more as a human being, right? And so one of the things that's interesting is that that's what we're doing with this program, is we're focusing on the human being first, and then obviously the project comes along for the ride if we do it right. So that's great. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and we're looking forward to doing this with you. What's your background? What did you do in school again? Can you remind us? Introduce that to maybe the other people here.
Okay. So basically, I'm actually now busy with my second qualification. In my previous qualification, I majored in geology. I was interested in sciences and the environment, so I pursued a career in geology. Now, with the employment issues that we have in our country, I ended up working in completely different industries. I mean, I was working in IT and working in banking, and to a certain extent, I felt like maybe I need to take a different journey. I need to, because I just wanted to have more control over my life. I felt like I was just going with the wind. So I decided to come back to varsity, and now I'm a business science student with majors in finance and supply chain. And actually, I'm actually busy with my own personal project. It's a business that I'm working on, which is on the side, which I've been working on since last year. I guess you'll figure it out as we go along. But I'm also interested in doing this project that I'm on now with the solar energy, which is it's sort of like a passion project for me, because it has to do with a problem that we have here in the country. It's a serious problem that we have. It's an energy crisis that we have, and it really would be a good opportunity to be part of a possible solution. So I'm really passionate about being part of this project. Basically, the solar project where we'll be developing some solutions to load shedding, especially using solar energy. And I've been doing a bit of research on that. I'm still just trying to figure out whether the project is going to be about trying to generate power or to create solutions to conserve power. So I think with the research that we're going to be doing as part of the team, it will be interesting to figure out which path it leads us to.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you're working on, just to clarify, you're working on bribe.io or bribe incentivized ownership, correct? With Stanley. Did you hear me, Nadabi?
I beg your pardon?
Yeah, I was saying, just to clarify, the project that you're describing.
Yeah,
here,
I heard you now.
It's
it's
the
project,
project.
my network is a bit.
Okay. Did you hear me the second time, or do you want me to say it one more time? We love the tech.
It's so good.
It always gets us through, right? No, but so this is good. We're still figuring out all the kinks here with this live streaming gig. So Nadabi, can you hear me now?
Seems like the audio's just kind of died out here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think the audio's just kind of died out here. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think.
All right.
All right. Okay. So maybe. Okay. So let's get Nadabi off for a minute, just because
it's just looping through a little bit. And I sound terrible through three sets of speakers.
It's just looping through a little bit. And, well, that was cool. That was great to see, Nadabi. Nadabi, I know you're getting a bit of technical difficulties, and it's good. I mean, we're learning how to do this consistently so that the quality stays on point. But what we'll do is, so just to clarify, Nadabi's working on bribe.io. Stanley introduced that project last week. It's basically the idea of trying to solve the load shedding issue here in South Africa, and basically having lack of power during scheduled hours, and providing people with a subscription service to alternative energy resources that they can basically connect to their homes and give themselves backup power, so that during brownouts or load shedding, whatever you want to call it, they get to enjoy 100% uptime. So this is something that is really, I think, an amazing initiative for South Africa, and it's been challenging because the government doesn't provide a lot of support here, from my understanding, for sort of private interests that are trying to tackle that problem. So the goal is to get a sort of crowd or an audience or a customer base that really gets behind this, and can help subsidize, or not subsidize, but sort of invest in having these systems go throughout the country. Anyway, awesome. I think the big thing for Nadabi is connecting with Stanley, who started working on the project a couple of weeks ago, and them both, sort of digging into it. And we've already given Stanley last week his challenge of coming up with his 3-month shipping date, right? And how the sort of roadmap to get to a tested shipping goal in 3 months, where we can hopefully have somebody who's interested in actually taking it for a test drive. So
that timeline's a little bit more aggressive than some, I think, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? It's a healthy constraint. I mean, it's like doing the impossible, right? There's no winning if there's not a risk of losing, right? So awesome. Okay, so cool. Did we want to bring in Paul, one or two of the other coaches, so that we could ask some questions of the next EIR? as they sort of come into the experience, we can kind of ask them a question, even just one other coach, or do you want to just sort of?
I love the presentation of that, because it seems really innocent on one side, but like, since you're the one that kind of started this and have most of the power of how it runs, it's not really a suggestion. I feel like it's more like, like, why don't you just kind of do this thing that I'm asking you to do as the person
like
that's
passive aggressive, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, let's see if I think
I've got a great Paul. You have a great idea. Why don't you? Let's do that.
What?
That thing that you're thinking about, like bringing in somebody new.
Emery, I've got a great idea. But yeah, let me grab Zav here. I think he's hanging around.
Awesome.
Zav,
Hey,
what's up, buddy?
What's up?
Hey, looking stylish, Zav. I'm loving.
Oh,
I'm loving
yes.
the man. This guy's the most stylish guy I know.
His shirt looks like my personality. It's awesome.
That's amazing. I've been camping outside for a couple of days to get into this stream today. Letting me in, guys.
I'm waiting for the Apple lineup behind you, right? Like, where's the rest of the people, in the Apple line that are, waiting to get on the stream,
Right?
Apple Store line. Awesome. Nice to see you. How's things going? How's life treating you? What are you
Nice
up
to
to?
see you guys too. Life is good, just summer vibes are coming back, I guess.
Yeah.
Still kind of COVID mood. People are snapping out of it, I guess, slowly.
That's good.
How about you
good.
guys?
Well, you're able to get out and do a bit of hiking, exploring, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I
now?
love the outdoors. It just like, especially with long days and being in front of a computer. I don't know about you guys, but just going for a walk or anything, just sitting by the lake, all that helps kind of restart the system a little bit. So I try to get a little bit of that in.
Awesome.
It's really inconvenient for me to lug my desktop down to the lake a lot of the time. Like, I've got 3 monitors, so like I have this little train of equipment that I have to take down. It's a bit rough.
I hear you. I hear you.
And I think we have Zach, who had a blackout in Texas. Wow, that's crazy. He just he mentioned in our sort of interaction here. Cool. Did we want to bring Zach in too?
Yeah, no, we'll bring Zach in. We'll make it a little bit easier here. Zav, your connection's a little bit dicey. I'm not sure why. It's reading as like an 8 out of 10 here, and you're just getting like these little intermittent packet loss things. I'm not sure if you can fix that somehow. But in the meantime,
I think if you just shake your computer,
oh yeah,
it might help.
Just make sure you bounce like the top right corner of your screen off of a metallic surface, and it'll be fine.
Hold on. Hold on. Hang in there.
But in the meantime, let me bring Zach up.
Just turn it to the side. Like turn it.
Oh
to
yes,
the right.
portrait mode. That's fantastic.
Hold on. Let me see. I'll find my way around here.
Nice.
Did this make any?
Yeah, we don't want to see you pixelated, man. We need to see
you
in
got
4K mode.
fuzzier.
4K mode.
Oh my
Nice.
God. Something to do with my device or because
Come on, man. My mom is watching this, man. She's going to be very disappointed in me if you don't get this figured out.
Do you still see me? Like, what is happening here?
We still see you. You're at about like 18 frames per section, and like you kind of go in and out of clarity occasionally.
Oh, that's not good. You might want to kick me out, and I'll try and join back in a minute.
What a great idea! All right, let's bring Zach up.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Hey Zachary, how you doing, man?
Good. I'm good. I feel like I'm in a third world country. Texas, with ERCOT.
Hey, stop knocking
advising
us
people.
over here in this country. What are you trying to say?
Sorry, I'm just saying. Down here it's terrible. I think they're trying to conserve energy because from that freeze that we had, and moving back to Vegas is looking very promising right now because I don't want to be off the grid, so to speak, because Texas has their own independent grid, and being independent sucks. So.
Is that one of the stepping stones, Zach, for getting like Texas? I know wants to secede, or there's I guess a group in Texas that
something
wants
like that. It's something
Right, okay.
archaic, and they want to be independent. And then everybody
in the
else
Constitution or
suffers here.
something.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
they've
I
always
heard
wanted
some
to be
stuff.
separate. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, they've been recommending people, like, we're having like crazy heat waves here. They've been recommending
Wow.
people to put their AC like at like 85 to conserve energy, or they're going to do rolling blackouts. And we survive on air conditioning out here because it's so hot and humid. So
Yeah. Well, I know at the high point when I first got out here to South Africa in Cape Town, the high point was in the it's opposite season, so in January it's pretty hot, and that's when there was a lot of brownouts here. So I can totally relate.
yeah,
To
so
what you're saying.
like
Yeah.
you were saying last time when we were talking, when we had the blackout here, like everything went out because they're I don't know what they're doing, but it was like a good hour and a half, and I'm like, great, right before my show. So
Well, it's awesome that you made it on. It's great to see you. You're looking very 4K high def. You've got the GQ thing on point as always. So looking sharp.
Yeah.
Cool. We're going to Zach. We're going to introduce a few of the other EIRs. A
Okay.
few of them we met briefly the other day, but today we're going to just get them to talk a little bit more about why they're doing entrepreneurship and what their goals are for their project specifically. So what are they trying to accomplish over this program period, right? Because obviously we need to get a little bit of tunnel vision here.
Right.
There's the big picture stuff that we're all good at. I think all entrepreneurs are really good at thinking like, when I dominate, the market or the world or whatever I'm trying to, do. But really it's about how do I get out of the gate? How do I survive the next like 3 to 6 months, right? So we're gonna get that question answered, and then we're gonna give them a challenge, a fun challenge. One of us is gonna pick something for them to do that makes sense, hopefully, to bring them to the next step of the journey. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
I hope it sounds okay.
It's always one of those terrifying moments when you're on live stream too, and you ask someone for the first time. It's just like, does that sound good? And I'm always terrified. There's like, no, that sounds terrible. I don't. Why did
I don't think we should be doing that. Yeah, let's get out a card game that you can play remote, and let's all just do that.
Oh yeah,
that's a better idea.
Less rhetorical, more direct. Like, you're going to enjoy this, Zachary. It's going to be fun. But it looks like Zav's all ready to go back here. I've got green bars across on. Oh, he switched to portrait mode. See, it did work. It's fantastic.
You asked for it.
I'm a genius. It was just twisting it to the side, right? That's all you need to do.
Yeah, maybe I should do portrait mode too to bounce it out so you don't feel alone, huh?
Yeah, I feel getting squished here.
It's
There we go.
There you go.
Thanks, Zach.
For sure.
Fantastic.
I like that.
I
It's
feel
nice and
much
balanced.
more-
Can we switch? I want to see a pattern thing going on here. Paula? Can you? Perfect.
There you go.
I got you.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
There you go. There you
I
go,
like it.
Paul.
I like it. Look at this is
Love it.
how you build a
Love it.
startup. Right here. This is exactly. This is
My little
basically-
setup here is designed for the vertical anyways, so the portrait.
That's awesome.
So.
That's it. Don't worry. I've got a course coming out next week. It's a 4-hour intro on Zoom transitions. It'll be fantastic.
Awesome.
Well, so let's bring in the next victim. I mean,
Yes.
the next entrepreneur.
Yes. So I have the order being posted. So we're just gonna switch over to cinema mode here. We'll bring Mahira up and just swap them over here. Good morning, afternoon, whichever.
Hello.
Morning.
Hi.
How are
Good
you?
afternoon, guys. I'm good, and yourself?
Well,
We're good.
that's actually relative, Mahara. It's actually morning for some of us. So you got to be a little more global about your
So-
your response. Just kidding. I'm just
Okay,
bugging.
well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are
Yes.
in the world.
Well, I like it. Yeah, we're global now. This is a whole global experience. Awesome. How you doing? How's things? How's life?
I'm good, and yourself? Oh, good. Finally, I'm on. I missed the
know.
live stream on Tuesday, so I couldn't get on, and then finally today I'm on. I'm like, yay!
I'm digging your headset too. It's pretty. Are you a gamer?
It's wicked.
Like, are you like?
I love playing games. I love.
Nice.
I'm trying to think which one I play. God of War.
Oh,
and
nice.
Tekken.
I like that one.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay.
And I can see my kids in the background saying, "No, no." Awesome.
So, Mahara, we're basically we're going to be introducing you yet again.
Okay.
I think you were introduced briefly in one of our previous short episodes. But why don't you share a little bit about what got you excited about doing entrepreneurship and joining the program? What was the path that led you here ultimately?
Okay. Well, I'm from Durban, South Africa, for everyone who don't know me. I've always been in love with entrepreneurship. I think for the last over 10 years. But I've always been working, I've always in and out, day in, day out. I've been working. So I was a key accounts manager, business developer. And when the pandemic hit, I've been obviously out of a job. And I said, why not? Why don't I go into entrepreneurship? Because obviously I love it so much. And that's when I started looking more into it. And it so happened that this Accelerator program came about just at the right time. And it's something that resonates with me. It's something that I can relate to. You having a helping hand to help you transition into entrepreneurship, for someone who hasn't been there or hasn't been doing it for that long. So yeah, and I'm more on the clean beauty products because I love beauty. I love to save the planet, so to say. So yeah, that's into entrepreneurship. And the business that I'm going into is completely good and clean beauty product for the everyday user. I mean, woman or man.
Brilliant. I love, Mahara, you said that you love to save the planet. And I think it's cool that you're taking ownership because somebody needs to save the planet. So I'm very thankful that, you've stepped up to the challenge. But I think I'm being
Everybody
a little
doesn't
bit,
like to do it.
yeah, I'm teasing a bit, but it is a collective effort. So
Yeah.
that's cool. And what is your plan for the next 3 months? Like, how are you going to get your project into market? Do you have a roadmap sort of that you've prepared?
Well,
Are you sort of ready?
Well, I'm not entirely ready. I'm not 100% sure because at the present moment, what I'm doing is I'm testing the waters with different products that can be easily made, obviously, from my kitchen, but obviously it needs to be effective for the end user. So at the moment, I'm busy testing out different products. Once I feel that that product is viable, it's good to go onto the market. I then want to obviously introduce it into the market. Maybe start off by giving obviously free samples to people, in my community or within the area, just to obviously try it out and give me their feedback. And then from there, I want to obviously take it out, obviously straight into the market. So that's my goal. That's my actual goal for the next 3 months is I want to actually take it out onto the market and I want to actually grow this business into something that's profitable.
Brilliant. That's awesome. Does any of the other coaches have any questions or any comments for
I
Mahara?
actually do. So, Mahara, got a question for you. So, social media wise, what's the rollout plan for that? As far as introducing your products, and so I know that's a really great way to test, the market to see who's responding and who's looking for certain things, especially in the beauty and cosmetic industry.
Yes. Well, at the moment, I haven't yet really created a page or created, either on Instagram or on Facebook. So that's obviously one of my goals that I actually want to do is I want to create a social media page for my business as well as an Instagram page, and then obviously, give little teasers to my products. So I want to actually obviously give my products like samples to individuals or through competitions.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Do something exciting. Do you mind just holding on to me 1 second? Do you mind just holding on to me 1 second?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. My kids are in the
No, you're
background
fine.
and they're like making noise, and I'm like trying to
Oh,
concentrate.
I think we know. Don't worry. And I mean, I
Yeah.
haven't started a business in that kind of an environment before, but I think I got to give you a bit more credit for being able to work through that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
that's definitely
sorry.
admirable to have kids and try to do that full time
Yeah, no
too.
problem.
Yeah. No, what I was saying is,
Yeah.
what I would recommend is looking at the different platforms for your
Okay.
business because, like, depending on the product and what you're trying to push out there to the market, not all platforms are appropriate for what you're
Yes.
trying to sell. But especially for
Yes.
fashion and beauty, definitely invest more time into video platforms like YouTube and especially TikTok right now, which is very like hot for showcasing things that are non-tangible, so you can't actually see and experience them in person. So being able to do reviews and showing what goes into the products is very important online.
Wow. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Zav. I'm actually going to take in that into consideration and go through.
Awesome.
And Mahara, I see that in one of the live stream feeds, Carla chimed in, Status Society, hashtag Status Society for influencer marketing. So
One of the
Wow.
reach out to her, and she can chat with you about influencer marketing.
Sure.
But you know what?
Cool.
We're actually Zach. You joined us, and you might have missed this, but we're actually going to be talking a little bit about the whole marketing game at the end of this as well.
Wow.
So this is great that you're here because we're going to talk about, obviously, I'd love to get your experience on influencer marketing and the personal branding because I think DEIRs can learn a lot from you. But we're also going to talk about a framework to test a bunch of these channels more effectively as a really early stage company. So I think this is going to be good.
One of the things I wanted to share is literally using yourself as a case study as a mom, incorporating it in your brand, like what just happened, with your kids in the background, not hiding it,
Yeah.
and actually doubling down on it and making sure you can find other people to connect with you like that. That's
Yes.
where you find some of the most human, stories and what resonates with people. So definitely to Emery's point for today's session, that's right up this conversation.
Wow. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much for that.
Yeah, I definitely
That's
agree.
good pointers. That's good pointers.
But you
It's,
gotta own it. You gotta learn how to dress it up and own it, so that
Yeah.
it's part of your story,
What's
part of that brand.
what's the term they have now? It's called mompreneur. So
Yeah.
I've worked with a couple of influencers that have that. They're in parent groups and they talk about the challenges of parenting while being a full-time entrepreneur. So these are things that people want. It's that authenticity piece and connecting with your audience. The whole smoke and mirrors and polished look that died when like Facebook and Instagram started kind of falling off. So now, people want real experiences. They want to see the flaws. They want to see the journey. They're more concerned about that versus the destination.
Wow.
Great point, Zach.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. That's a great point.
Yeah. And just one little thing to add to that is that anything that's a challenge is also a strength, right? So your children are like, are a huge gift, right? And it's part of what fuels you. It's part of what motivates you to be doing this for them, and they bring a lot of joy to you, and vice versa. So I mean, that should be celebrated, right? So
Right.
in one sense, it's a challenge, but in another sense, it's your gift that's gonna fuel you to get to the destination you want to get to. So I think it's something that we can always remind ourselves that everything in our life is there to be, to motivate us, right? As much as it is there for us to grow from and learn from.
And to piggyback off that too, you talked about the eco-friendly thing, the green aspect of things, preserving the earth and the environment for your kids for later, in the future. So kind of connecting that as part of your brand might be a good idea as well, and kind of like having a learning or teaching opportunity for your kids. So
Wow. Thank you so much, Zav. That is a really good pointer. You're giving me good advice.
Thank you. Well, we'll see you. We're gonna give you your challenge, Mahara, at the end because it's going to be related to the marketing um, system that we're going to introduce you to. So just pay attention closely at the end, and you'll get your next challenge.
Oh, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Nice to
Take
see you.
care.
Thank you.
You
Bye.
See ya.
too. Bye.
And we're
That's
back.
cool.
And we're back.
So I just
That was
it's
a good one.
crazy.
That was a good one.
It was good. It's crazy deja vu to you guys because I just had a long conversation with our team in Toronto with the agency that I work on, and we were talking about that because we have some international account managers at this point, and we were talking about strengths and weaknesses, and everything. We try to categorize things like this is a strength or a weakness. So, for example, if you're somebody who is international and you're talking to like a Canadian or a US person, oftentimes like the Canadian or US person probably is going to naturally resonate with somebody else who's Canadian or US because it's like, they're used to similar culture or whatever. And I was saying, what, you can use your international experience to bring that client on a whole sort of level up journey about being sort of a global brand, because a lot of brands want to become global. You can give them another perspective from outside of the country that they're in, but you also have a lot of work to do. You have more work to do maybe than somebody who's local in terms of like learning like the culture in Canada or the US. And so you can come in and really wow a customer because you can kind of show up and be really prepared, maybe know a little bit about the city they're in, know a little bit about something really interesting about them or that city. And then you have the best of both worlds because you got this international perspective, but then you also have, a more, you're paying attention, you're putting more effort into the actual, the work that you're doing with that client locally. And so we were just talking about that sort of, not to sort of focus on this dichotomy of like, it's one or the other, but actually looking at it together and saying, hey, like everything that's a strength is also, a challenge, and vice versa, but always understand that and understand like how you can kind of use that to your advantage. And it's the same thing with a mother, right? Or a father who's running a business that you're a full-time caregiver and potentially, right? And you're also now a full-time entrepreneur. You have less time for both of those things. So you have to be even a better mother or father. You've got to even be a better entrepreneur. And it's a forcing function to make you actually even more successful in what you're doing. And
there was a video. I don't know if I'm pretty sure we've all seen it. One of these journalists at home. He was working at home last year during the pandemic on a Zoom call, and his kid was knocking on the door, and they finally came in. And he was trying to stop them at first, but then obviously it was too late. And then, it just went viral. Every other parent
I do remember
from
that.
home was relating to it. So that's one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I love what you said about just both of you talking about just owning it. Like just really, that is your brand, right? Like why does a mother want to have better, cosmetic care, beauty care, personal care products? Because two reasons. They want to basically have a planet around for their children. They want to also be healthier, more, and more be able to show up their best self for their family, right? And so it's all of these things that get tied to the brand that's completely authentic and it's completely natural.
Point,
and everybody
Zach
else
mentioned
wants to
authenticity, and I think that's key here, because the authenticity you can't fake. And all of us, we're sensitive to that, So if a mother is selling you something, it's coming from a good source, and you can tell if she's being authentic. And then our goal as the Darkhorse team here is to help pull that out of every EIR here, so that they can feel confident about some of those things, I think.
Yeah, and the market has changed so much. No, sorry, not to cut you off.
No, please. Yeah.
I was just saying the market has changed so much, and I've seen it change from, MySpace, to Facebook, to Instagram, and like those expectations, we're peeling back layers. There's less smoke and mirrors, and people are desensitized to the whole model lifestyle because it's fake. They see so much of it. They're tired of it. They're like, well, who can I actually relate to? Like who's actually imperfect that I can learn from, that's a few steps ahead of me. So, that's why I like TikTok, and a lot of these video platforms right now, because they preach authenticity and they preach connecting to the fans, and it's about your user, not about your product.
That's right. Yeah, that's a great. Zach, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Like, as I know you weren't able to join us our last live stream. What are you up to? What got you into entrepreneurship? What got you on your journey?
So
Just briefly, yeah.
I guess the word serial entrepreneur is probably appropriate for this situation. But I got my start in the music industry. I worked for Sony BMG under Epic for about 4 years. My mentor, who's now the CEO of Epic, Sylvia Rohn, then left out of there, came back to Texas to be closer to my parents, and ended up working for a management company owned by Beyonce's father. So I was with Music World for about 6 years, left to do my music career. And then after some successful endorsements and national campaigns, I started my marketing company, through my experience and my degree in marketing. And started Melodic Soul, which is my marketing firm. We do, marketing for individual influencers to small businesses and to corporate enterprise solutions. And this just recently, I just opened a new co-working space to support the entrepreneurial dream at the same time, called Muse Office. The last thing I guess I could say is right now I'm also on a talk show for Fox Soul. It's a new Black content network, aimed towards the Black community to speak about goals, entrepreneurship, relationships, all sorts of things. So that's where I'm at now. But I'm happy to be on board here, as a coach, as a full-time influencer myself too, because I still work on campaigns and stuff as well. So I'm happy to be on board with Darkhorse.
That's awesome, man. I love the music thread that goes through all your brands and stuff as well, like the names and you've got the coolest logo for Melodic Soul.
Right. It's actually
it's freaking amazing. Yeah.
My wolf. Yeah.
Your wolf. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, talk about your wolf. Come on, talk about the wolf.
So I raised
please.
I raised Electra, which is my wolf. I got her from a breeder that bred like for film and TV. So it's not like they stole them out of the wild. They're like 7th generation domesticated, and they can't go back to the wild. But so I guess you can say I fostered her for about 10 years since she was like a pup. She passed away right before the pandemic because she was like at that point where she was old, and she just we don't know what happened. But she's actually the symbol of the company, so I'm very symbolic when it comes to symbols and logos. The wolf pack is despite the whole alpha mentality, that's actually a misperceived notion, but everybody actually shares a role equally, in the pack. So as a entrepreneur and as a boss, I want to make sure that my employees and my staff members feel like I can support them and can step into the trenches and like pull my sleeves up and help them with whatever work they need as well. So it's about balance, and sharing the weight of the work. So
it's beautiful, and I love you have a mural in Muse, if I'm not mistaken.
I do. Everybody's like, you're crazy to raise a wolf, because I see the pictures and they were like, oh, you mean a real wolf? I'm like, yeah. She worked, she modeled, she was an influencer, she had her own Instagram account and everything. So she had to pay for her food, but it was an experience I wouldn't trade for anything. It's a great learning opportunity, and even to be around like something that was out of my element and to learn, it was very rewarding. So
yeah, that's brilliant. Very cool. Well, we're honored to have you as part of the program and one of the fellow partners and coaches. Yeah, it's awesome.
For sure. And thanks for having me.
Well, yeah, our pleasure. Awesome. Let's bring in the next entrepreneur.
Victim.
Absolutely. We have Rachel coming up here. Just give me 1 second.
Rachel, how's it going?
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hey,
awesome.
Rachel.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
How is Canada treating you?
It's good. So I'm actually in New York right now.
Oh, how's the U.S. treating you?
It's good. It's a lot different, that's for sure. Things are just so much more open here. So
yeah, it can be polarizing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny to see how the personalities of the country start playing out when you start looking around the world, right? It's like who's not really hanging out indoors and doing that? Well, U.S. Yeah, well, South Africa too, actually. So, but Canada is very conservative, so we're everybody's on the lockdown. So.
Yeah, well, don't step down
we're
to
getting there.
Texas. Because down in Texas, everybody is unmasked, and I'm spraying people away with water bottles like a cat. So 6 feet, please, 6 feet.
Yeah, that's funny. So what are you up to in New York, Rachel? Are you relocating? Are you leaving? Are you yet another brain drain? You're getting like they're sucking you into the country, and you're leaving Canada for greener pastures or something? What's going on?
Yeah, so basically, I guess to give you like a little bit of the background, my husband got a job here back in 2019. He's American, so it's a US-based company.
Okay.
So we came here for a few months right before the pandemic hit. And then once the pandemic hit and we were stuck in our tiny apartment and everything was closed and it was kind of scary, we decided to go back to Canada. So we were there for probably about a year. And that's actually how I started my business, which is the gift box business. So now I need to essentially figure out how I'm going to keep doing this remotely. Obviously, traveling back and forth isn't like super easy at the moment. I'm fully vaccinated now, which is amazing. And I think they are starting to ease restrictions a little bit. It'll be interesting for sure to kind of weather this kind of transition. But yeah, I'll be here for at least 6 months or so.
Awesome, very cool. Well, you're in a great city, so it's one of my favorite in the world. I love New York. Mm-hmm. Are you in Manhattan, or are you in one of the boroughs? Where are you hanging out?
Yeah, we're in Manhattan, so it's been a transition. Like to go from living in Windsor, I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that. It's like pretty small and quiet.
Yeah.
My parents in their backyard.
Opposite,
yeah, like opens onto like a forest. It's like peaceful. There's like deer in the backyard, and now I'm in like it's just loud and like constant sirens and honking. It's a lot, but I'm sure I'll get used to it.
Well, I guess you're totally living up to the opposites attract. Like your husband's from New York and you're from a small town in Canada, and yeah, it's very cool, very cool. Well, I think we just talked about how a challenge is also a strength. So this is going to force your business to be systemized in such a way that you can actually manage it remotely, which is kind of a good challenge, I think, right? So I think, well, that's a great segue. Why don't you talk a little bit about where you're at with the business, and maybe you can just briefly introduce it. Like what are you working on? What are you doing? And where are you with it currently as we start to take this sort of journey together again? I know we started the journey in the sort of pre-warm-up phase that we had for the last couple of several weeks before we now just kick this off anew. But why don't you share a little bit about your project?
Sure. So my project, yeah, for sure. So my project is called Local Provisions. Essentially what happened was around October of last year, I was kind of thinking of, shopping local and how important it was becoming. There's definitely this kind of appetite to support, small businesses versus like going to like Amazon or big box stores. However, with all the lockdowns and restrictions, it was difficult. You couldn't really go into these small shops anymore. And although some of them had an online presence, some of them didn't really have much of an online presence. So it was very difficult for them, obviously, to make sales and to get traction and all that. So what I did was I started curating gift boxes for the Christmas holiday season, using all local products from Windsor, Ontario. So it was very hyper local. And then I guess like dominoes just kind of started to fall. So we curated a few boxes, and then the Downtown BIA, it's like a business improvement association, saw that, got in touch with us, said, oh, we want to partner with you as well. So then we started curating boxes for them as well. We ended up getting on like local news. It was like definitely there was like some momentum behind it. It was just like Windsor news, but still, I was like, this is so cool. My mom saw me on TV. So it was really great, and I think I just got like such a high off of it. It like felt like I was doing something that was purposeful, encouraging people to shop local. I had complete autonomy to be creative and like design these boxes. So after Christmas, I was like, hey, well, how can I continue to do this? Also, while keeping in mind knowing eventually I am going to have to leave and go back to New York. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do now, is develop a way that I can do it remotely. And potentially create a tech platform around it using some of the vendors that I've met along the way. So a lot of them create their own gift boxes. So I was trying to think of a way, like, how can I take my customer list and essentially serve them up locally curated, gift recommendations. So that's kind of what I need to figure out. Obviously, I don't have a tech background, so that's a bit of a challenge. But yeah, something else that was really exciting in the last 6 weeks or so before I left, I actually got my largest ever corporate gift box order. So one of our customers from Christmas, she bought 10 boxes for her executive team. And then she reached out to us a couple months ago and said, oh, I want to use you guys again for some retirement gifts that they're doing for their staff. So I think I ended up making almost 60 boxes and delivering them all up until the wire, literally the day before I left. I was doing final deliveries. So it's been it's been an exciting last month or two for sure.
That's brilliant. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations on that. That's a huge milestone, getting a 60 box order, in one fell swoop. So has that pushed you, Rachel, into thinking more about segmenting into B2B? Because I think in one of our previous conversations, you talked about the fact that, obviously the larger picture is that you're sort of, like you mentioned, a platform that has different options for different types of customers. But because you're such a early stage still, and you have, obviously limited resources and time as one of your finite resources, is there a consideration for which market to kind of focus on? Because I don't know, maybe that's not even an issue for you, but my experience is that the B2B market and the B2C sort of market have a different way that they sort of need to be wired up for, and so having a business that speaks to both of them at the same time is a double challenge. So is that something that has occurred to you? Is that something that you're thinking about, or is that even an issue for your project, in your opinion?
Yeah, I definitely like the B2B angle for sure. So another one of our corporate clients, actually, they have us make employee welcome baskets. So their whole team went remote and have been for a long time. And something they wanted to do to welcome new staff was give them a welcome basket with a bunch of local products in it. So I've been working with them for probably about 6 or 7 months as well. And sometimes they'll have 5 or so baskets a month for new staff. So I think one thing I've definitely noticed too is the budgets are often a lot bigger with the corporate clients. So the margins are definitely better because, if you're ordering, when that person ordered 60, up to 60 boxes, it's a lot easier to get really good pricing because I'm going to the vendors. I'm like, I need 60 of these. So we negotiate a price. So that definitely helps a lot. So yeah, from a financial perspective, it's definitely probably more advantageous, I would say.
Okay. And what about from your perspective, from a personal perspective? What do you I remember when you first introduced the idea to us, one of the things that really resonated with me was the way you described your why. Maybe you could share how you, sort of a little bit about that, because I think, does that still resonate? Does that still do you still get that why from the corporate side, or not? Do you lose it somewhat from that, or not?
Yeah, I think ultimately the thing that I realized, which I love so much about this, is that when you deliver someone a gift, even though I didn't buy it, I just put it together and you bring it to them and they're not expecting it, their face just lights up. Yeah. And I've noticed it with both corporate gifts and personal gifts as well. Because the same thing, the employer that we work with, for example, their employees don't know that they're getting that welcome basket. Oh, so I've delivered these baskets and people are just blown away. That's actually the words they've said. They're like, oh my God, I'm blown away. I can't believe that my employer is doing this for me. And they always assume I work for the company. They're like, oh, who? I don't recognize you or whatever. I'm like, no, I don't even work for the company, but I get to benefit from seeing the reaction and seeing the happiness. So that's probably what I really like about it. It makes people smile. It makes people happy. People need that right now.
Absolutely. Well, you brought up I think that you just hit upon, maybe you already occurred to you, but just occurred to me that you hit upon something that's super unique and novel, because when it's my birthday, you're expecting maybe a gift from your significant others and your family and your friends and stuff like that. But when a business shows up and surprises you, like when your business surprises you with a gift out of the blue, that's like really unique and extraordinary, right? Compared to what that doesn't happen very often, right? And so that's actually like a whole thing that I think you just sort of are unlocking for people. Not to take anything away, obviously, from getting gifts from your friends and family and loved ones, because that's all great too. But this is something that's sort of extraordinary, is it not? Like that whole sort of direction, and especially like you said, right now, I'm just thinking of work all of a sudden because I'm thinking about my, even my staff and stuff like that. You don't see anybody face to face anymore. You do see them on, on these videos and all that, which is great, but we've been sort of deprived of each other, that connection. And so having something physical that shows up, at your home, that's connected to your, your team and your staff and stuff like that is super, I think it's like something that's really sorely missed. And so it's a great way to sort of reconnect physically with the people that you're working with. And I think some people are staying at home. Like, I don't think everybody's going to go back to the office now that, things are kind of moving in the direction where it's possible. I think we're seeing the trends that a lot of businesses are still going to, they're seeing that there's, profitable reasons to maybe keep some of the team remote. Some of the folks that are remote are seeing advantages for staying remote. So it's going to be a little bit more of a hybrid thing that's happening, what it looks like anyway. Obviously, it's too early to say for sure. But so having regular, gifting or ways for you to kind of go into a person's home and sort of connect them back to their business is kind of interesting. That's like a really interesting thing that you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think that's here to stay for sure. I think employers are trying to find like new ways to keep their employees engaged. It's not just about, a paycheck anymore. And I think especially for younger generations coming up too, right? It's like, I think feeling like their employer really cares about them as a person. I think it's something that's important.
It's small things.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was actually just talking to, one of my colleagues about this, since I have an office space myself and staff, but it's, just the small things, because at a certain point, people are happy, they have, the right salary, they have the right job description, and everything is balanced. But it's like the little things, like, having a curated box, having really good coffee, snacks, lunch, whatever, that all really adds to the overall balance. So I think what you're doing is really good, and the customer base that you're targeting is right on point. So I did have a question though for you, Rachel. As far as your customer base, how are you doing like lead generation? How are you finding the customers that are needing these services?
Yeah, I'm finding that a little bit more difficult now. Early on, when we first started out, working with the BIA was really helpful, because they already had a very big list that they were willing to, they blasted out like several times about their specific curated boxes. Having a couple articles written about us, and then that news piece. So the news piece, it was written as an article, it was on the news, and it was also on local radio. That really helped a lot. When I checked the website, I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe just the amount of traffic we got from that. So I'm definitely without those kind of PR elements. It's definitely a bit more challenging for sure. SEO is definitely something I need to learn. I have social media, I have an Instagram, Facebook, I have TikTok, but I don't know if it's because I'm a millennial. I haven't fully gotten into it yet, but.
Well, I'm a millennial too, so don't sleep on TikTok. Okay. It depends. I think for your business, it's very important, and I'm always preaching this, because my team's always like, you're always talking about TikTok. But because right now it helps, types of businesses like yours, gives the actual user experience. Emery was saying something earlier that made sense, because we're not actually able to actually go out there and touch and feel the products and services anymore because of some of the limitations for COVID. So being able to showcase what goes into it, the why and the care and the curation process will be really good for TikTok. And I think the reason most people are not getting the traction on TikTok is because they're not consuming the content that they want to be shown to. So if you're on there and you're engaging, you're looking at all the dance videos and, things that are not related to your brand, that algorithm is going to shoot you to the wrong customers. So you want to go through and look at small businesses, like corporate videos, things where it's going to attract the right customers, and then, create a campaign strategy around posting. I helped out a small business locally here in Houston as well, just for sales, because they sell like herbal medicines and holistic solutions. And the first month they got they went viral, I think 120,000 views on one of the videos, and they got at least 300 new customers just from that. So, definitely don't sleep on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's great advice. That's definitely something I need to focus on for sure going forward.
Yeah. But the SEO portion that you were saying, you're right on point. Definitely having, articles, great press, and even blogging yourself and utilizing LinkedIn as well, especially since you're targeting a lot of the corporate companies. I would maybe recommend doing some research and writing a blog about how gift giving and incentivizing, helps employee retention. So that might be something to look into as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
That's great. And Rachel, a real quick question for you. Are you thinking that this is something that can be ported to New York, for example, if you're going to be there for extended periods of time, like maybe that's your second location, or is it something that you just want to sort of keep in Canada initially?
I think it definitely could be. I don't know. It's I think I was just more comfortable starting this business in my hometown where I grew up. It just felt like I kind of knew the market. Whereas New York, I guess it's a whole different ball game. So I'm definitely open to it. I think it's just my own confidence level. If
I guess the good thing, Rachel, is that New York, there's a lot more customers.
That's true.
There's a lot more businesses that need that, and it's I think there's a lot more probably people that are going to be going back to the office in a city like New York too, like Manhattan and stuff. I think it just makes more sense just the way the city's built, right? Versus you're probably going to get a lot more people sort of staying in the their beautiful cottage homes in Windsor and Ontario, surrounding Ontario. But yeah, it's something to consider. So we have a bit of a lesson, Rachel, at the end. So stick around so that you can get your challenge, because it's related to all the stuff that Zach was introducing around marketing and how to basically decide what channels to start to focus on and how to prioritize them.
Great. Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Yeah. Nice to see you again, as always. And we'll look forward to chatting with you soon.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Rachel.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. Do we want to let's bring Carla in. We need some more female energy in the coaches circle here.
Testosterone.
Or not more. We need some female energy, I should say.
Yeah.
We have enough masculine energy in here. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's just if Carla is available, let's have her come in and join us.
If she
or Carla.
if she was on the stream, if either of them were around, absolutely they would be here.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought because I was seeing her. She's on the Facebook.
I saw her on the chat, right?
Yeah, she's on the Facebook stream. So I'm just assuming. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Come on, Emery. I know this is your show, man. Just let me do my job. I got it.
Our show. So, Carla, if you can hear us, we're sending out the bat signal for the, the Marvel Spider-Man signal. I know she's a big fan of Marvel. So come and join us. It'd be fun to have you on here. Okay, who's next?
Well, what do you need in terms of time for your presentation, Amory? Because we've got about 40 minutes, give or take, 45 minutes left.
I just need about half an hour.
Oh, well, that's much easier then. So let's take a look here.
Half an hour for Zach and I, because I'm gonna ask Zach a few questions about some of the stuff that he's been working on with, on the influencer side, because it's a part of what we're going to be suggesting for these the ERs. But including probably some of the stuff that Zach and I will chat about. I think it would be 30 minutes.
Okay. Let me just take a look here, because I don't have videos on for anyone else that's left backstage currently. Oh, excellent. I think Shamsia, and I think it looks like the connection issues got fixed on that side too. I think we're fine.
Okay.
Great. I have no data to support this, but my assumption is that we're fine.
Sending positive energy.
Absolutely. You know, if I can just vibe with the tech, it'll all work out perfectly.
Yeah. I'm not day drinking, by the way. This is sparkling water. Just in
That's
case
okay.
it
looks way more badass than whatever I'm doing.
This is not vodka, I promise. It's not vodka. It's water, I swear.
Hello.
Hey, Shamsia.
Hey,
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Your video and
We
audio
can.
looks awesome. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been trying to just get all
4K in all its glory.
Okay. Nice to meet you all. Paul,
Nice to
Zachary,
see
and
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice
So you
to see
guys are
you.
having fun. Yeah. It's nice to see myself, actually.
It's well, you know what, Shamsia, I'm sure you're always saying that. You're very presentable, so I'm sure you're always saying it's nice to see myself. You know, wake up, you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, but today
Here
I
I am.
was just trying to struggle to get online. Seriously.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, I
Oh,
had the same
well,
issue, so.
Yeah, that way.
awesome. So what have you been up to, Shamsia? Tell us a little bit. What's going on?
I'm actually wrapping up my diploma program. So the past week has been very busy and hectic with exams and presentations. But you guys are keeping us going, and it's quite exciting working on the projects that you all are giving us. And the assignments, the Know Thyself, was such a challenge, but it actually helped me figure out why we're doing this. And I keep hearing you all talk, and I love the chatter. You guys have to give a lot of credit to yourselves, because the kind of information that you all are giving us, the structure, the posturity to the entrepreneurship, it's just amazing, because I feel like that's the reason why I'm here, because
Thank
I'm
you.
a scientist, I have a science background, I'm trying to find a job in my field. But then I was looking for jobs, and I'm trying to get into these edX courses, because there's that missing gap, the link. Like, how do you get things done? How do you move things? How do you get the funds? How do you start things? How do you build networks, connections? How do you optimize, or rather, like, how do you avail opportunities? How do you, literally, it's like from academics to commercial. How do you do that? How do you reach people? So you guys, like the entrepreneurs, that's the missing link. That's what I figured. And it's not something that I knew earlier on. It's something that I have understood why I want to be here, why I am on this journey. Because for me, it's more about, there's something called policy entrepreneurs. I'm not sure if you all have heard of it. These are entrepreneurs like you all, except that it's a term they use for people who work with the government. So they're like, as I think someone previously told, they want to work with the energy and try to, solve the energy crisis. So the solving the problem, that's what entrepreneurs do, because they have such a skill set that not everyone has, and that's not taught, So it's not like, I think it's like you're born with it, except you need the training, the tools, the learnings from people like y'all who have done so many projects. There's so much wisdom behind everything that y'all say. It kind of just makes it easy for people like us who want to, start learning and doing things, taking action, literally solving problems. Yeah. So that's my journey. That's something I've understood after being part of this Darkhorse Accelerator program. Yeah.
It's a really funny thing too, because you give us compliments and thank you for saying such nice things about it. And like my gut reaction, I guess, because I've been, cynical and suffering for so long, is just like, no. No, I don't think I have any wisdom. I think that, I have made mistakes and I have failed and I have tried to find solutions and I have gone back and forth and I have tested things and I've made educated guesses, and at some point, enough of it has gone the right way that I kind of ended up here. Like, it feels like it's really hard to say that we've done everything right, because, like, absolutely not.
Right.
But yeah, it's just
I
been,
definitely agree.
There's a lot of things that, even when it comes to the fundamentals of any business, right? If you look at infrastructure ops, which is usually my back end, marketing for everyone else, there's 1,000 mistakes that you can make. And like, we're just going to try to save half of them. You'll absolutely make mistakes consistently. If we can save you from a few, great. If we can at least point you in the right direction of where to look or what questions to ask, I think that's equally as important. because we've been asking questions about everything that we do, for a very long time, I think. And, but thank you for the very nice words. I do sincerely appreciate it. I'm just really cynical and jaded where I'm like, I'm behind on documents this week. I haven't finished a competitive analysis that's overdue by 4 days. So it's a consistent being hard on myself at least, but no, thank you. And I'm super looking forward to working with you. And I'm glad you got your video and audio working as well.
Yeah, but there's something I want to tell you. If entrepreneurs are not going to be making mistakes and, learning from that, then who else? Who is going to? Who's going to take the leap of faith? Who are the people who are going to do that? It's people like you,
I definitely
right?
agree.
Yeah.
We're the guinea pigs, so we have to make the mistakes first and kind of warn you ahead of time. So
Brave enough to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, but yeah, to everybody's point, I think we have to make these mistakes, and kind of learn. And sometimes learning from your own mistakes is good too, because, just always trying to be perfect and, paint this picture of like perfection is really unrealistic. So,
yep. And I mean, even when it comes to Emery and I having conversations, I mean, we disagree on lots of things about how to do something or what process or what the bits and pieces. Okay, don't look that excited, Emery. Jesus. But at the same point, like the mentality is still the same, and like the outcome is still the same. It's just how we get there is always different. Like after we'll have a conversation, we'll disagree about something. We can go on about it for 15 or 20 minutes, but it's just like, oh yeah, well we have to go from point A to point B. Like the paths may be different, but like that's just shaped by our experience. Like there's still fundamentals that are very similar, regardless of what you're doing.
That's true.
But enough about us. What do you like, Emery? Don't let her talk about us anymore.
Okay.
I can't control Shamsia. She can talk about whatever she likes. Okay.
I know, right? That's good. So I can talk about my projects then.
It's your platform, Shamsia. What would you like to? Here, I'll ask you. What are you finding the biggest challenge? Because you've been working on exploring some of the details of your project. Maybe you can share a little bit about what the project is and maybe what you think is the biggest priority or the biggest challenge.
Yeah. So I have two projects, but I'm mainly focused on the first one, which I'm leading, which is Haven Nutrition, where we will be developing the nutrition bars, which is organic and vegan with some exotic ingredients. The development of the product is one story, but as you guys have already put it clear, that it's the marketing and it's actually getting that to the people. Even before the product is on the shelves, it's how are you going to sell it to them? Because there are a lot of products and people have the choice. We just need to make sure that our product is standing out, not just in terms of how it's made, but it also in the sense of how it's going to be, ringing with people. So that's going to be the biggest challenge, and that's something that I've been started working on. Like me and my co-pilot, we've started doing a lot of market research, trying to see how we can spin the story so that it becomes more likable to the people, how people can relate to it. And we do, as Emery said, we don't want a substandard product. The product is going to be good. We're going to invest in the product, but we also have to invest in strategizing how we are going to market it. So that's going to be a very big challenge for me. That's what I'm learning. That's what I'm here to learn as to how it's going to be done, the tools, the skills to actually reach out. So it's all about social media. So I've been doing a lot of online media research. I'm studying products. There's some small products and some business lines that I've been studying, seeing how they have brought their product into the market and what's the enigma behind it? How are they selling it? So I usually see some products, but they have the story about the founder, the co-founder, and they usually have a nice story behind it. Or the product is something that is very nutritious, yes, but why is it important? So there are these things that have to be tackled, and the marketing aspect of it, and influencers, the TikTok, the social media, it's big today. So that's what that's learning for me. Yeah, to devise it. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's changed so much because when we first started out and the internet was still fresh and new. I sound old right now. Um, back in like what early '90s and stuff, it was about the what, right? But now it's so much. It's changed to the who and the why. So like who, like you were saying, who's behind it? What's the brand story? And why is it being developed, like for the customer? So it's more about the audience, and who's actually buying the product, more or less than the service. The service or the product always comes last. So especially from my experience, that's why social media and influencer marketing is so important.
Yeah, I agree.
And I feel like Shamsia, just because of your background, the product development I think is going to be less of a challenge for you because I mean you're not necessarily going to probably be baking everything or whatever, but just your understanding of food science and your ability to do like the required research and testing and all of that stuff, I think, and certifications and all the things that go into building a food product with consistency. I think that stuff, and it's really to sort of put a compliment back on you. I think it's really admirable because here's one thing that I've experienced when I've worked with specialists, which I would consider you a specialist, is that you end up everything is a nail and you have a hammer and everything you see is a nail, and so you end up going into folks that sometimes have a really strong inclination towards the sciences end up or in another area, maybe like on the creative side as the opposite, but not able to sort of go and embrace the challenge of sort of looking at something from a completely different perspective. And without any direction, you've like really gone all in on not necessarily your background or your strength, but on the area that you've recognized as should be the priority to kind of get the product to where it needs to go. And so I'm really impressed by that because I don't think that that's very common at all from my experience. It's actually the opposite of common. And so, I can say that, it's been really amazing to sort of see you come and join us. And in such a short amount of time, you've been just really impressive with the way that you've been thinking about things.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. That's good encouragement for me.
Yeah. But it's definitely a balanced approach. I definitely agree with Emery because a lot, like you were saying, a lot of skilled set people that they focus on what their strong suits are, but then they leave the other areas, untouched and it's unbalanced, so just recognizing that is really important because you can have a great product all day, it can do wonders and cure, world hunger, just poking fun. But if you're not pushing it in front of the right audience, it's not going to get seen. It's not going to get, sold. So.
Yeah, actually, in my field of work, like as a food technologist or even as a scientist, you develop the technology, but then how do you capitalize on that and how do you actually get it to people? So that's where people like entrepreneurs, and then the next step is the business people, right? So it has to move. It's called technology transfer. It's like the most organic way of moving from your lab to the table or farm to the table. So this is a very important aspect, and marketeers, advertisers, and entrepreneurs have a very important role to play in actually translating and transforming that product into something more tangible. So it's a very important role that you guys have to play. You can't underestimate that. Yeah, definitely.
Well, you're one of us now, so welcome to the family.
I'm still learning. I'm still in residence.
You're in resident, yes. You're aspiring and in resident, but hey, that's
and
that's
I
the
personally
first
love
step.
like food and nutrition, so like that's definitely something that motivates me. I had a question for you. So as far as the product, are you looking into like genetics and kind of curating the process for different dietary constraints and nutritions for different demographics at all?
Actually, that was the research part. Like we are using some really exotic ingredients. So we want to focus on how each of those ingredients are actually going to help the people. Maybe not as a demography way because we're just starting off. So we want to keep it a little broader base. But we're definitely going to focus on how each ingredient is going to help with your health. And we're going to use only those ingredients and probably spin a story around why you need to have this instead of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I see that, like, I think what's going to benefit you is, the science behind it, because with the food and nutrition like field, especially in the US, it's so unregulated. People just claim certain things,
Mhm.
it's all over the place, and people jump on these trends and these fads that go out,
Yeah.
like right now I think Shilajit or something like that. That's something that people are like drinking now. They're saying it's good for your health, but nobody can say why, so it's
Yeah.
like people are just buying this black paste on Instagram, on TikTok, they're like, it's a trend. And then
Yeah.
chlorophyll was like a trend for a while, so
Yeah.
it's so much, and people are on like information overload. So having some more curated processes, and
Yeah.
scientific backing, part of your story is really powerful. So,
Yeah, that's what we're going to focus on. Keep it very science-backed, keep it very true, and keep it very real for people, really. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's it. And like,
Sorry.
sorry, Emery, if you don't mind. I had the same problem. I'm still on Cliff Bars, Zach, if there's any indication of my cycle of how long it usually takes me to come around to things. So like that was my whole
Gotcha.
thing. But like with the amount of information that was out there, I kind of just gave up on breakfast bars. So I'll happily show you what I'm currently eating. Not sponsored, unfortunately, but feel free to pay me. Are these Special K
Kellogg's.
little like bars,
Okay.
right? The only appeal of these nutritionally is that they taste like Pop-Tarts. And like that's about the extent of what I've gotten to at this point, because I can't find something that sort of pairs things together that's actually healthy, that's not full of bullshit, honestly.
Yeah.
Like there's
No,
just
no, you're
too
right.
many things. I don't have the education, and it can't taste like, sawdust.
Yeah.
Also kind of a problem, unfortunately, with a lot of fiber-based bars that are out there, at least in Canada.
Yeah, true. Why did you buy the Kellogg's one? Is it because of the packaging? Because I've been trying to study why it attracts people. Is the pack attractive?
Honestly, I'm a little bit of a child. So like it was similar enough to Pop-Tarts. I looked at it like, oh, this is like a healthy version of this. This is awesome. Like I'm taking care of myself now. That was pretty much the
Okay.
But like I was on Cliff Bars for a long time because it had protein in it. And it's just,
And they're very famous.
they were, right? And I don't want to say that I was eating them before they were cool, because like I don't know if that's true or not at this point. But yeah, like it was just like there was protein, it was easy, it was accessible, and it was everywhere. Like I always disliked having something that I really, really like, and then I can't find it anywhere. I'm special ordering it from some foreign country, right?
Yeah. I think there's an alarm going off somewhere in the room.
Oh, excellent. So you're being told that time is up?
No, not Is it disturbing you all?
Well, it sounds like it's actually a phone. So I felt like
Yeah,
you
it
had
does.
the
That's
red,
what I thought too.
the red phone beside you, where it's like the president's calling, and they're like, "Hey,
No. Can you just give me a second?
Yeah, no
Sure.
problem.
it's like there's been a breach." Oh no!
You talked ill of Cliff Bars. This is enough.
Get him off the call.
Yeah.
Was that Kellogg's calling to say, you know what?
Yeah, just
we're
stop
gonna
talking
endorse the
about
show?
Kellogg's. Yeah.
I'll sell out pretty cheap for them, but like
Or
that's a
maybe they
big
want to
thing.
call Paul for the sponsorship.
Exactly. They're like, tell Paul, you know what? We're gonna sponsor the show. Thank you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But that's it. It's a super tough space because like the intersection of healthy and delicious and accessible is really, really difficult to do. And you have to do it almost inexpensively because the margins sort of compound when you look at distributors, especially if they're international, into retail. Like there's just a lot of logistics when it comes to supply chain of it. But I know that Emery's got a bunch of experience in dealing with that. So you don't have to guess or have 1,000 conversations anymore. It's, hey, this is essentially how it looks out. This is what we should aim for. And then we cut out a lot of the work in the middle.
Yeah, that's true. I agree.
Well, I think the just last sort of comment on what you're doing, Shamsia, with this product is that there is, I think with the sort of the old adage is that it can, to Paul's point, it can taste good or it can be healthy. That's the options, right? You'll pick one, right? And we're now moving to a place where, no, we want everything. We want it to be, taste amazing, look amazing, be amazing for me.
Yeah.
And nutritious, exactly. So you want it to hit all of those marks, and that's obviously not easy, but it is possible, right? And it's about all the things that you've been talking about, which is getting every ingredient that matters in there and having them having them sort of chef combined, and that that's going to get you to the to the result that we're all hoping for. And then Paul can actually have the level up version of Pop-Tarts. when we're all said and done.
I will absolutely, if you can figure out how to ship it, I will happily pay for all of it. I will test all of them. I'll let you know what I think. I'll pass them off to people that also function off of bars consistently.
So we
like,
have
I'll
the
do what we can.
influencer. We have the influencer for the bar.
Exactly.
No,
There
if
you
you
go.
saw my social media, like of anywhere, no, I'm terrible. No, pick anyone else but me.
Awesome. So Shamsia, you'll be happy to know that we're actually segueing right now into marketing. So your challenge will be related to the topic we're about to discuss.
Sure. Can't wait. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, nice to hang out as always, and we'll look forward to chatting soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Awesome. Let's play a video just to kind of get us pumped up for this last 20 minutes to get us.
Oh, we always have the transition mid-roll. Don't worry, Emery.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. Let's go.
And we're back.
Welcome back. You know what? I was thinking in the midst of that last conversation, because I know you have a conversation planned here. Emery, how familiar are you with Red Bull's model overall as a company?
I've done a couple of basic research, sort of not case studies. That's the wrong word, but just I've researched them. I mean, I'm a big fan of their marketing, and their experiential marketing, and sort of what they stand for, and the way they've sort of approached the game.
Yeah.
I do think that they have a bit of a advantage at this point, because they're one of the sort of an early mover in a lot of the stuff that they did in the marketing scene, and also they have money to spend, so they can get some pretty interesting partners on board. So I don't know if everything that they can do is translatable to like a bootstrap, very early stage company, but I'm very inspired by them. But I'm not sure why you brought them up. So maybe I'm completely
because last time I checked, they are actually a marketing company. They have none of their own manufacturing. They outsource everything. Their entire business model is strictly branding, marketing, and getting it as many places as possible. And it has nothing to do with the infrastructure. That's all taken. That's all outsourced. All the distribution with things. It's strictly a marketing play.
Yeah.
They actually even have their own music label as well.
Yeah.
So, which is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, there's sort of this whole thing that I think, who was it? It was Horowitz, Andreessen Horowitz. Oh my God, I can't believe I forget his name. Anyway, he was like, software's eating the world, and like every company is a technology company, was some of his sort of famous, quips.
Yeah.
And I think in 2021, every company needs to be a media company, right? Every company needs to be a studio. It needs to be a production company.
Absolutely.
And that's sort of the new way. And then obviously, technology is still there too, of course. But it's this idea that the companies are really embracing marketing, media, and production are the companies that are winning. And any company that's not isn't doing nearly as well in the same category. Yeah. So it's a really good. Thanks for bringing them up. Excuse me, I can't even speak.
Yeah, I'll just fill you in while you're drinking. Water. So the reason that I brought it up, Emery, thanks so much for asking, is the whole concept of being able to take marketing from a very small scale of looking at like $100 or $200 a month in social media marketing to literally building a multi-billion-dollar idea based solely off of the marketing, the branding, and the positioning of a product, and mentality and intention, any of those sort of core fundamental marketing aspects of it. So to tie into that and transition to what you're talking about, because that's about the extent of knowledge I have for marketing, I'll pass it off to Emery.
Awesome.
No, Red Bull is terrible for your health, though.
Oh, they're awful.
My staff, they're hooked on it, and I still have a relationship with them, so we get it for free. But I told them, don't drink more than one a day because you'll die. And then I had to hire new staff, Sorry, a little grim humor right there, but I'm like, you guys definitely should watch the caffeine intake.
The Red Bull marketing campaign that never made it off the editing floor. I like it. It's good.
Yeah, gives you wings in a different way.
I love the and this is part of the thing that we're trying to do here on Darkhorse. So I'm so impressed by the honesty and the fearlessness of saying that, because not that we have like a big audience here or anything, but it's kind of cool that you're like, hey, you know what? Like, this is going to kill you. And they're giving me some free drinks, but I don't care. I'm going to tell you anyway that, too much of this is not good for you. Right. But it's true. I'm impressed that that you're calling it out. And I think, it's funny because a lot of these companies, they have the opportunity to do the same thing with products that are actually healthier. They do have that opportunity, and we're seeing it in the car industry, right? I mean, every automotive, gasoline automotive company, diesel automotive company has the opportunity to become electric, right? And so once there's enough pressure, they have the resources, they have the know-how to be able to move into, more sustainable spaces. And it's the same thing with food companies. So there's lots of alternatives to Red Bull that are energy drinks that are more natural, more, healthy. And Red Bull could easily follow suit if they get enough pressure from their influencers like you. So, but anyway, okay, cool. So here's the stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to share a little bit of a strategy, a framework, and we don't have a lot of time. So maybe what I'll do is we'll spend 5 minutes talking a little bit about. I'm going to be asking Zach a couple of questions about basically personal branding and influencer marketing. I'd love to have him, obviously share a little bit more in depth in a follow-up meeting, because there's so much more that 5 minutes is not going to cover, even like a sprinkle of, the knowledge that I'm sure Zach could share with us. But I do want to give the assignment, and it is tied more to a broader spectrum of marketing options. So maybe we'll just spend 5 minutes, Zach, and then we'll bring you back. Okay. Hopefully you can come back and join us next week, and we can do a bit more of a longer one. But the main question I had for you was that you've been really inspiring me to actually become much more active on the personal branding side than I've ever been. So I grew up as an entrepreneur, loving to build products and externalizing all my efforts into things around me and businesses that I've been working on or projects that I've been working on. And I've always been like, I'm an introvert, so I've always been like resistant to sort of using social media beyond my own small circle of friends and family.
Right.
And not really been too interested in putting myself out there as a personal brand. However, watching you and sort of working with you in the last couple of years, or a year and a bit, I've just been really impressed, because I guess the way that I always looked at it, and this is really why I'm bringing this up, is more for the EIRs that are going to be going on this journey with us, is that I kind of looked at it like you had to do one or the other. You kind of had to be an entrepreneur that was good at building product, or you had to be an entrepreneur that was good at personal branding. And for whatever reason, the limitation that I had was that you wouldn't really have a lot of substance if you were just working on your own brand, or you wouldn't have, you wouldn't be able to have the same level of substance that you would have if you put all your energy into the product. However, I don't think that's true at all. First of all, I think it was just like sort of a subconscious thing for me. But then when I looked around at all the entrepreneurs that I was most inspired by, they weren't necessarily always even the most charismatic entrepreneurs. I would argue that, like somebody, although he's getting much more charismatic as he's getting more comfortable, I think. But, if you look at Elon Musk, I'm such a huge fan of like what he's been able to accomplish. He's not like a Steve Jobs. Like, he's not the guy that, you look at it. This guy's like the perfect presenter, but he has his own authenticity. Right. And what I realized is that I could be my own brand with my own authenticity. And as long as it was really aligned to the mission and it was aligned to the products that I wanted to see in the world, the services I wanted to like provide, then I could actually, it would actually help. But I'd never done it. And so looking at you, I see somebody who's actually gone down that path. But tell me, is it something that, like, what do you think about that? Do you think every entrepreneur should consider personal branding? Is it something that some of us should do it, other ones should probably, like, do you think that there's a trade-off?
I think it's important. I think it's important to be well-rounded. So if you step into entrepreneurship and you want to be a leader, you have to be prepared to have face time. Whether you're super charismatic on the camera or not, you have to get out of your own way. Believe it or not, at one point in life, I was actually an introvert myself. I was very shy and, self-conscious about public speaking, about myself. So, but I had to have conversations with myself and, like tell myself, hey, if I want to do this, I have to be social. I have to get out there. I have to engage with people because, that saying your network is your net worth, that's, it's great, but you can't really build a network from behind the computer screen. You have to go out there, well, despite COVID now, but you have to go out there and reach, and touch people and have conversations and get people to really know who you are as a core. Because like I was saying earlier, it's more about the who and the why versus, the what you're selling or what you're doing. So
that's great. I like how you
but
said
baby
you have to get out of
steps.
your own way. Yeah.
Yeah, baby steps, and it could just be like, hey, you can do like start off with, an interview like off camera with like a news article or something like that, like a blog interview, and then like, create steps up to that comfort level, and then start maybe doing like local radio, incorporating yourselves into maybe like some local TV, and like as you like build those stepping blocks, you'll get to that comfort zone because in a million years, if you asked me 5 or 6 years ago that, I would be doing a live show on Fox, I would be like, no, like I'm terrified. There's no way they're going to point the camera at me and it's like 3, 2, 1, we're going live and have a whole talk show. But I had to build myself to get to that point. So, I didn't come out like confident like that. I had to get there. So, and I made a lot of mistakes.
Awesome. Let me ask you a question about because as a personal brand, you have a lot of different sort of sides to your creativity, right? Like you've got, your sort of music persona, you've got your entrepreneur sort of persona or leadership sort of persona. You've got the Fox show, which obviously is a part of that too. And then you've got Zach, the person underneath, or as part of that whole thing. Is there a strategy that you have, like that you think that an entrepreneur should be like really intentional about the way that they're sort of building up their brand? Is there an approach beyond like obviously the baby steps you shared? Is there an approach around strategy that they should be aware of?
Everything part of your brand should be synergistic, and should flow together. But depending on the audience and who you're in front of, you definitely will show more of that side, to kind of like basically, establish your place, in that field, right? So as I'm talking about marketing, I'm not over here, showcasing my music or, talking about the modeling side and stuff like that. But if it applies, like if there's a case study, there's a campaign that I've done as an influencer where we've actually, managed to use engagement to drive sales, then I can use that as an example. Because it is my personal experience. It drives that authenticity, and the client or whoever, I'm mentoring, they'll understand, hey, it's not, I did this 5 years ago, or I'm, talking about somebody else's experiences. This is something that I personally experienced myself and I've gone through myself. So I think that's really valuable. But I think where people that saying about, don't be the jack of all you can't be the jack of all trades, and an expert of none. That only applies to people that, don't understand how to synergistically bring all the elements together, because we're more than, like one facet. Obviously the person that's an intellect doesn't mean that they can't be, sexy, they can't sell something. The person that's an intellect doesn't mean that they can't go out there and be, very communicative with other people in the industry as well. Like, you don't have to be like an introvert or an extrovert. I mean, those things are interchangeable. So that's what I learned.
Awesome. Last question for you. I love that you're saying that, because it's so true. I mean, we're not one-dimensional creatures, right? And we even have different relationships with different people in our lives in different ways that we sort of, behave in those situations. So why can't that be also part of your brand, right? Last question for you. So if you look at a lot of folks basically, or at least I did, maybe other folks don't do that, but I worried about, I've heard that there's certain limitations sometimes where if you're working on your personal brand and that's too tied to the business, then it actually devalues the business, because people don't want to buy the business anymore. They want to buy, Zach, they want to buy Zach. So you're kind of locked into your business. If you ever wanted to sell, or you wanted to kind of move into a different area, the business now kind of is so intertwined with you. Is that something that do you believe that is like even a thing? If it is there a strategy to make that so that that's not the case? Is that a danger for us as entrepreneurs?
That's a really good question, and you have a good point. So it's about the level of give and take. Using my companies like Melodic Soul and Muse as an example, like what's relevant, obviously like what I'm doing maybe in the community for the office space, right? Where I'm helping entrepreneurs, I'll step in and do some messaging on that. But I'm not constantly putting my face, like my employees, my staff, our clients are going to be the face of that product or service, but they know I'm behind it. But I'm not heavily invested visually myself in the business, except for just certain pieces of messaging. So that way it can still thrive. But how I built the audience and attention at first were through my networks and from people trusting me. And then I slowly had a transition plan to kind of distance myself. But it started as a core with my personal brand and building that trust, because people, opening a new business is scary, like, especially for new customers, they don't know who you are. So, as you grow, of course, that level of separation is going to start to happen. And that's natural. But starting small, you're going to have to rely on, your personal authenticity to, grow that business. So, but just keeping that in mind that you're going to slowly have to separate, piece by piece.
Awesome, man. I'm really getting into this. I'm learning a lot here. So you know what? We run this thing, so we get to choose. We're going to keep it going for a couple more minutes here because I want to get into this a little bit more, and we're going to go over. So it's okay though, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sort of like a slave right now to my calendar because I've been trying to be really organized with it, and so I'm trying to keep everything in my life that way. But I think sometimes you've got to kind of go off script a little bit. Cool. Okay, so let's talk about like we have like a bunch of brand new entrepreneurs. This is the first time that they're ever getting into this challenge of building a brand around them, through their product or service that they're trying to launch. They're also going to get a recommendation, it sounds like, from us. I would assume, based on this conversation, to also invest in the brand of them, who they are, and we have an audience. Hopefully, we're going to develop for them, or help them develop through the act of live streaming. Getting on video a lot, getting comfortable, getting out of their shell, getting comfortable, getting in front of people, asking questions, sharing knowledge, all of that stuff, sharing their passion for their work. What do you think is the maybe I have two questions and I'll just do it in two parts. What's been like the biggest lessons that you've learned as a professional brand that's working with other brands, and as an influencer and so on? What's been like I guess the biggest lessons that you could share with these entrepreneurs as they're starting this journey? Just kind of take yourself back to like, well, we lost them. Here he is. So the question, Zach, was what would be the biggest sort of recommendations or lessons learned that you could share with, or lesson learned that you could share with the entrepreneurs that are starting this journey with us? Well, you're muted. I don't know if that's. Can hear you again.
I'm sorry. As soon as somebody calls me on here, it kind of messes everything up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, you're back on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. No, so the biggest lesson for me as an entrepreneur is like learning how to delegate, so as you grow the business, because when you start off, you're a one-man show, right? Or one-woman show, whatever the case might be. But as you add on employees, you and I talked about this. It's very hard to kind of like take our hands off of there and like let our employees and our staff and the people that are helping us, like, delegating to them to get it done. So learning how to be, independent of that and separating yourself and letting people do what they need to do. Because if not, you're going to be, like strung out, your calendar is going to look like a mess and you're not going to be able to focus on the higher level things. I start looking at my hours as, like billable hours. So, if it's something that like I bill at 180 an hour for my expertise, but you know, should I be doing something that, you know, I can be paying somebody $15, $16 an hour to do, you know, that it's not necessary because it's wasting my time, you know, that I could be developing something else to grow, you know, to that next level. So, you know, so just learning how to delegate, I think, is the biggest challenge for me, and it's a good learning opportunity for anybody starting out. So.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. That's a really good advice. So as these entrepreneurs start going down this journey, it's about figuring out what stuff can you delegate, and then just focusing on the stuff that's going to be adding the most value for the business, and also for building these brands. And the last question I have for you is, what is the mix of time that? So we're going to be. This is a perfect segue, because I'm going to be getting into a bit of a framework around working on, you know, different marketing activities, right? As we start to get into the market. One of the things that, you know, you and I have had this conversation, so I can share, and I've sort of seen that play out with you and with other folks that I'm connected to, where the cool thing about the personal brand side is that whatever you're investing there, it goes wherever you go, right? Whereas the business may or may not, you know, survive, unfortunately,
Right.
or fortunately, depending on the situation. You know, we've all had projects that have no longer around, that have stopped, but you don't want to get carried away, I think, one way or the other. What do you think is a healthy mix of working on my personal brand versus working on, obviously in synergy, and then working on the product or project that I'm trying to get into the market? What's sort of a balance of time, energy? Is there a framework that we should consider? Is there a strategy we should consider? Is there a way to figure that out?
Yeah, I would say like probably like 2/3 of, you know, your time should be dedicated to building that business because it still needs to be at the forefront, and the other third should be your personal brand because, you know, I might not be moving at a like astronomical pace with my personal brand like I was when I was fully concentrating on myself,
Yeah.
but I needed to allocate that time, you know, to help the
Yeah.
business, you know, grow and breathe.
Yeah.
So there is, you know, like a 2/3 balance where, you know, 2/3 of it needs to go towards your business. So, and I think a lot of people, they are like, oh, well, I need to focus on my personal brand, and they put, you know, it's more heavily weighted on their personal brand, and then it suffocates the business, and the business doesn't get enough growth.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's a great framework for people to use. Next time we meet, hopefully next Friday, I'm going to be asking you a bit more about you know, the specific tactics, like the nuts and bolts on, like, you know, scheduling your time, you know, how to
Yeah.
sort of do production, you know, how to come up with ideas, stuff like that. Because I think, you know, like just watching you and watching how you put together your content, it's been really, really interesting. And hopefully we can get maybe Nick to join us and stuff too for that one. But
Yeah.
but that was that was really informative. Thank you. I think well, you know, it's going to be about execution for the EIRs, but I think there's a lot of knowledge that they can gain from this exchange. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and
Awesome.
you know, I'm excited. This is kind of like my lane, so I love seeing other businesses grow.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you and I both. I mean, we're, you know, your business serves the entrepreneur community, and so does the projects that I work on. And so, you know, both of us have that in common,
Right.
which is great. I'm going to just share. Please stay on, but I'm going to share a bit of a knowledge around a framework that I've been using, Zach, and EIRs that I've been using to successfully help other entrepreneurs grow their businesses, and also a lot of the projects that I've worked on that have been successful, and even some of the ones that haven't been as successful. I've used this framework. So I learned the framework about a few years ago. I don't remember exactly when, if I'm being honest, but I'm going to say it's like at least 5 years ago. 5, 6 years ago, because I was actually, well, it would have been 6 years ago, because I was working actually on a project that was a venture-backed app company that I was working at the time, and we used it even back then. So there's basically a framework called it's basically called the Traction Bullseye Framework, and it is based on a book that was written by a gentleman, Gabriel Weinberg, and actually, I guess he did it with a colleague, Justin Mars. And they were also, one of them was the co-founder of, or the founder of a company called DuckDuckGo, which is a search engine company that's successfully competed with Google. Obviously, they're not as big, but it's still impressive to be able to get into a search space. You would think that that's like a space that's completely, been won a long time ago, and they entered it about 10 years ago and have been able to successfully carve out a very profitable and successful business there. And so that framework is something that I started using because I was looking around as a marketer. I was looking around at like, what's a good way for an entrepreneur who doesn't have a lot of resources, and especially if you're not venture backed, you don't have a lot of capital in the beginning, and you need to test really quickly and try to get closer to product market fit and get customer development going very, very quickly. And you're competing with guys that have way more money than you, typically, right? And you're not competing with a bunch of other startups that just started. You're normally competing with existing companies, maybe some really big companies that are in the space, which can be really intimidating. And the customers basically has a very limited attention, and you need to somehow get in front of them. And so the cool thing I really liked about this framework is it doesn't really date itself, because it's actually, it incorporates any of the most modern channels that are available to you. And it forces you to actually try to use all of them. So as a marketer, we all get comfortable with certain channels because they're channels that have worked for us in something. And so we want to kind of keep using them. Like, it's like one of those things that if it's not broken, don't fix it and run it back. Let's run it back. Like, I have a new company, I'm going to do this again, right? And what I learned is that actually, depending on the kind of project you're working on, the channel that you are most comfortable with is actually the wrong channel, because it isn't as effective as if I grew up and I was an expert advertiser, and you grew up and you're an expert social media marketer. Just because I'm the expert at advertising and I started this company, it doesn't mean that advertising is the right choice. Maybe it's social media marketing, right? But because that's what I know, I'm just like constantly chasing the same channel that I'm comfortable with, right? And so I started looking at that, and as a marketer, I was realizing, as a product designer more than a marketer, but as a product designer that needed to use marketing to promote my products, and then starting eventually an agency that did both, I looked at it and said, okay, what's the best framework for like early stage companies? Because I've always loved, the earliest stages of a company. I just think it's like such a really cool phase in the business, and it's really neat to be able to have a strategy that can work regardless of what your resources are. And so what I'm going to do is I'll just walk everybody through for those who haven't been introduced to this framework, this is going to be the challenge. So the EIRs that came on the call today, one of the challenges I think you naturally gave them, which is start your personal brand. And so, 1/3 of your time, and you can factor that into this too, by the way, guys. So the framework actually works for your personal brand, and it also works for your company brand. But we're going to give you a framework now to use to start working on both your projects, which is your personal brand and your 2/3 company brand. I'll share my screen if I can. I don't know if I actually, maybe I can. Yes, I think I can. Let me just see if I can. Okay, so beautiful. Okay, so this is it's based on this book, as I mentioned, Traction. And this is kind of like what the framework looks like. And so the Bullseye framework is basically, there's about 16 different channels that have been recognized sort of by the framework. And, you could argue that there's more or less. It doesn't really matter. That's not the point. If you want to modify that part, by all means. I mean, as an entrepreneur, we're always trying to break the rules. But I would start out with this, because I think you could always fit whatever you're thinking about into one of these 16 channels. Okay. And so you've got these different channels here around the outer side of the bullseye. That's where, the name comes from. And the goal is to start to basically rank them to a point where eventually you're testing multiple channels and going towards the bullseye. What's the bullseye? Well, the bullseye is product market fit. The bullseye is basically getting 2 or 3 channels that are super successful, that are growing your business the way you want to grow it, right? And connecting to your audience the way you want to connect to your audience. The really cool thing about following and adhering to this framework is it forces all of us out of our comfort zone and finding ways to do something that probably many of our competitors have never even tried. And so you can sometimes get really lucky and tap into a completely untapped channel that will get you much more higher return on investment than you would normally get if you just sort of followed all your competitors into the same space, which is very expensive, right? And so if everybody else is advertising on Facebook and you use this framework, well, it's going to force you to start thinking creatively. And maybe you're still using advertising, but maybe you look at a different channel, like you're looking at TikTok advertising as an exotic channel, or you're looking at Pinterest or whatever. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm gonna tell you how I use this, Zach and company. And so this is how I use this, is that I normally as a early stage startup, I don't have that much resources, so I only start with 3 ever. I'm never doing more than 3 at a time. If I'm really limited on resources, maybe I'm doing 2. But the way I divide up the 3 is I normally look at trying to come up with one channel. First, I'm gonna basically do this exercise. I'll take you through really quickly, but I'm gonna basically try to pick one channel that is kind of more long-term investment, if you will, like almost like we said, personal branding is a bit of a longer-term investment, but basically a channel that may be more slower to burn, but it's going to be something that's really valuable in the long haul, because it's going to be, I believe it's going to get us really far, and it's going to be something that is going to stick around throughout most of the journey of the startup. And when we say startup, we're talking about typically the first 5 years. When it graduates into the next phase of the company, more of like the growth phase or whatever, hopefully some of these channels are still going to work for you. Now, every channel is going to have its a tap out point, typically, where there's just no more audience to capture in that local market or whatever. So in a good news is that when you're really early stage, none of those channels are at risk of tapping out, because there's no way you could possibly capture even a small percentage of the market that's going to make a material difference if you're like a very early stage company, because it's just like, there's just too much market, and you're just not going to be able to even handle it with the kind of product that you normally enter the market with. But so the cool thing here is that I normally start with one of those channels that I mentioned, that's sort of a long-term bid. I also I try to come up with one that's really exotic and weird and kind of different than what I see everybody else is doing. And then I try to come up with one that's, I'm pretty confident with, that's going to get early wins or early results. And this is how I kind of do it. So you see all of these on the outside. So what I'll do is there's a spreadsheet that we're going to share with the EIRs that they can use to basically sort of start to come up with a brainstorm. And so how the brainstorm works is that you take the 16 channels that are in the spreadsheet, so business development, viral marketing, content, et cetera, all the way through. And you start to brainstorm different ways to basically, do that for your particular brand. So at the minimum, you want to have at least one thing for each of the channels. And you force yourself to kind of go through this exercise, because some of these aren't actually going to be realistic maybe right away, but you still want to go through the exercise to sort of say, well, what is the most realistic thing that I could do that would be considered business development? There's obviously like details about what all of these mean. We're going to give folks a bit of a document that can sort of explain the framework. There's a really great blog that summarizes it, so that they don't have to read the whole book. But basically, once you read the summary, you'll get an understanding of what all these channels are. And basically, what you're going to do, EIRs, is you're going to go through, and the first step is you're going to go through and you're going to take your brand, your concept, and you can do this at the earliest stage, even before you have the product ready. You can start to think about, like, how am I going to communicate to a customer? How am I going to do customer development? And you come up with ideas for each of the stages, what's your strategy for each of those stages. And then you're going to try to rank them. And the goal is to get to green. You want to pick the ones that are going to get you as close to green as possible. And so you're ranking them from 5 different sections, right? So one is, this doesn't really count, but this is like, where's it at? Like, so everything starts as an idea. You're only going to want to test 3. So right now, the different options here are testing, tested, right? We've already ran the experiment. Normally, by the way, we run these experiments about 30 to 60 days typically. Focusing, and abandoned, right? And so focusing is obviously, if something's working really well, you're not just testing anymore. This is going to be one of your like main channels. And the goal is to kind of go through this exercise where you go back through and you're testing multiple, only 3 ever at a time until you've actually tested fully 3. And then you can basically, if one's working really well for you, you can basically, sort of double down on that. And then if something's not working, you get rid of it. You take it off the list and you replace it by something new. If you're trying to do more than 3 and you don't have the resources, an easy way to do that is what you talked about, Zach, which is you basically delegate or systemize one of those channels so you can put less attention on it. So maybe now you can sort of put a standard operating procedure together so that one of your team members can basically sort of heavy lift it. You don't have to put, as the entrepreneur, you don't have to put as much attention on that channel because a lot of your heavy lifting is going to come up with putting together new strategies for these new channels that you're trying to introduce your audience to, right? Your product to an audience. And so basically, the goal is eventually you've done enough testing after several months where you have your like 3 killer channels that are working really well for you. And this is just an example. In this particular example, it ended up being search marketing, affiliate marketing, social media. You don't necessarily have to test all of them, by the way. You ultimately are going to prioritize them. So things that are basically, really low on the list, and low is basically like the low score is actually a higher score here, but the low score is basically meaning it's going to be really difficult for you to get a lot of value from that channel. And so the reason why you know that is because you're going to be basically, and this is a guess, but you're going to be guessing, is the quality of the leads I'm going to get from this channel going to be high, okay, good, or low? Is the impact from this particular channel going to be high, medium, or low? Is the cost of this channel going to be low, medium, or high? Is the effort to do it, not just the cost, like the money cost, but the actual effort, which is like time costs, going to be low, medium, or high? And once you go and rank all of your ideas, then what you'll see is, and I just sort of, in this example, we just stack them so that it would be easy to sort of see the different color. Once you do this exercise, the colors automatically change, so you can sort of see the stuff that's most green is the stuff that you probably want to focus on to start with, right? Once you've tested all of those, then you can move on to less green, to the yellows. You probably will hardly ever get as far down as the reds because it's just such low, value, such high effort. It just doesn't make a lot of sense because there's a lot of other things that you probably do way before that, right? And so that's the framework I use to launch marketing campaigns now for startups. And it's again, somebody very successful came up with the framework. It's been used by many entrepreneurs. It's a great way to do 2 things. It's a force function to get you to be more creative with your marketing. Maybe explore an untapped market opportunity or channel opportunity that you wouldn't otherwise even consider. And a great way for you to sort of give yourself a process to be able to test things and do A/B testing, do split testing between different activities and start seeing with data what's actually working for you, what's giving you the best return on investment. Obviously, this sheet gives you some other data that you can start to add to your sheet as you're building it out, so you can get add some additional notes. You can add your testing strategy. Normally, I want to also know the amount of time I'm going to test. So normally it's 60 days, but maybe it's longer. Maybe sure you want to put that in there. Your cost of your customer acquisition cost. You want to figure that out, and then you want to put that in there. This comes from actually doing the work, and then you're going to figure out what the acquisition cost is. There's a calculator we will share that's part of the summary blog that you'll get, and then there's the basically amount of traction you're getting from that channel and the conversion rate. So traffic, conversion rate, and lifetime value of the customer. And so you can add other data points, but these are like the normally early on, these are the top ones that you want to track. The data won't lie. So eventually you're going to see after a month or 2 of running some of these experiments, like I said, about 3 at a time, you're going to see what's really working for your startup. And then you can move on to other ones when ones aren't working. If one is, you always want to pick the one that's working the best, keep that going typically. And then you want to turn off the one that's the weakest or pause it. You don't have to kill it, just pause it so that you can replace you can put your focus and your attention somewhere else temporarily. And obviously, we're going to probably be endorsing influencer marketing slash social media marketing as one of those channels because it's so powerful right now. But where are you going to do that? Is it going to be on TikTok? Is it going to be on Facebook? So you can also, last thing I'll say is you can also treat this where you can actually have more than one test happening at the same time. So if I decide that I'm going to be using social media, I may want to have a split test between two different social media channels initially, because it's really hard to do every social media channel well. Like, as I'm sure, Zach, you would agree, if I'm trying to be the master at TikTok and I'm also trying to be the master on YouTube and the master on Twitter, and that's not going to work. I'm going to have to pick a social media channel, and maybe there's two I really want to test. So maybe what I'm going to do is go, I'm going to put half my energy for the first month on, TikTok, the other half of the energy on Instagram, and see what's working for me, right?
Yeah. And it just depends on, obviously your industry too. Every platform is like completely different. I love the tool, by the way. It's very organized, and like the user interface is easy for, entrepreneurs starting out to organize their thoughts. So.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it's something that, it's a great template for them to, again, when you're early stage, you can't afford an agency. I mean, we're both of us run agencies, so we know that, it's great to have a team. And we actually do work with startups. So, I mean, it is possible, depending on your budget, for you to be able to, fairly early on in the life cycle of your startup. Both you and I work with very small businesses. We work with entrepreneurs all the time. But you don't want to always have to rely on that, especially when you don't really know if the product is going to sort of what the product is that you're selling yet, right? You want to basically do a bit of work on your own early, typically, so that you can kind of learn, okay, what is it that I'm trying to sell here? And then, once you have a bit of resources, bringing an agency in to kind of heavy lift some of these channels with you that are experts in some of these channels, that can be a value. But I mean, again, and each to their own. Some people will say, hey, I'm going to bring the agency in right away. Some people will say, I'm going to wait until I'm a much bigger company. Right. It's completely up to you.
Yeah, and that can actually create a problem, and I've seen it in, Emery, you and I have seen it firsthand too, is when a lot of these startups, they jump into, working with an agency like head on, and there's no planning and execution beforehand. It wastes a lot of their time and money, and then they get frustrated, and, it just doesn't foster a really good positive environment for anybody, so we can't help them if they don't come with at least some goals in mind, some KPIs set. So I think these are, really great tools for them to get a visual, some visualization on where to hit, so love the bullseye. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah. So the challenge, guys, the EIRs that joined us today, and the EIRs from last week as well, and even the EIRs that haven't actually been introduced yet, guys, we're going to be giving you these templates. Of course, they're going to be added to our Slack and our ClickUp channels. So we want you to go in there and make a copy of the spreadsheet. It's already set up for you. You don't want to go in and sort of change the formula so that things will work. But basically, go in there and start to take your project and brainstorm. Even if it's pre-prototype, you want to do this multiple times throughout the life cycle of the company. So you want to do it now. You also want to do it once you have the product a little bit more further along and refined, because right now your goal is to do customer development, right? You're not trying to sell like crazy. You're trying to get people to give you feedback on like what's working. You're also trying to establish your language. When you want to start testing messaging, what's resonating, what are getting people excited about the product you're about to release, all of that. And so you want to start going through some of these channels and starting to build up a bit of a audience, a pre-marketing audience, before you are like built the product and then you're trying to launch and scramble, right? And so this is a great tool that you can use early, but then obviously once you launch the project, there might be different channels that you want to also test. Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Zach. Thanks everybody who joined us today, watching and stuff, and looking forward to seeing everybody next Friday. We'll come back and get hopefully Zach back on to share some more insights about the personal branding thing, because I think it's really invaluable, especially the way we're approaching this Accelerator program. We're focusing on the founders 50% of the time and the companies 50% of the time, because we actually believe that a better founder is going to create a better company, obviously, right? So it's it's really important to us that we're giving the founders lots of great advice on how they can become a better professional entrepreneur. Because any project that they work on, whether the first one fails or not, which, the odds are that your first projects typically fail. That's just the statistic odds. We're hoping that's not the case here, by the way. We hope that our odds are better, or our metrics are better than that. But, it's inevitable that some of us are not going to be successful with our first projects, right? Many of us have done this for a long time, and we're still not successful with every project we work on, obviously, right? So a lot of the stuff that you're working on for yourself, if you're investing in yourself as an entrepreneur and a founder, and you're doing now personal branding as well, you can't lose, because this is going to just carry with you into any new project that you ever work on. Any closing thoughts, Zach?
Awesome. No, I mean, I guess the only thing, my word of encouragement is, like, you're going to doubt yourself a lot through the process. I mean, even now, with like 2 successful companies, like, I wake up and I doubt certain decisions, but just keep pushing through, and consistency is really where it's going to get you, where you need to be. Yeah,
it's great advice. Yeah, this is not an easy journey. It's not any. We've talked about it enough. I think we're beating a dead horse at this point. No pun intended. But we actually will say that this is a difficult path. There's easier things you could do with your life, right?
Yeah.
Much easier things you can do with your life.
It sounds glamorous to say you're a CEO, but
yeah.
I think there's an evolution that kind of happens there, right? Like when you start your first company, oh, you're a CEO, it's the greatest thing in the world. And the longer that you do that, the more you realize that titles really don't matter. It's just like, just call me whatever. It's fine. Yeah. Like, I know what I do here. I'm comfortable with what I'm doing. That's okay. And just to tie into your last bit there, Emery, I mean, I consider, myself pretty well versed in the space, but like my failure rate's down to like 30% on companies. And I feel like that's a huge improvement, but like by gambling odds, that's terrifying and awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to go into the casino with 30% win odds and go like, I'm excited about that. But hey, guess what? In a lot of professional sports, that's a good number.
That's fantastic. Okay. 3 times the average. Absolutely. Those are great odds, right?
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a good point. You're bringing up the metric. I mean, normally, the failure rate's very high. It's like 80-90% in many cases, depending on what we're talking about specifically to, the stage you are as a business. But early stage companies, they fail a lot more than they succeed, for sure. And especially venture-backed ones, you're sort of pushed to fail or to succeed aggressively. And so the interesting thing about the experiment we're running with Darkhorse is because every company is starting off at least as a customer-backed company, you can control your destiny a little bit more, I think, than a company that basically has a venture capital sort of backer that's going to say, hey, you know what, you're going to spend the money, and if you can't raise another round, you're shutting this thing down, because they're part owners, right? Whereas you can say, you know what, I'm going to slow this down. I'm going to get it right. I'm going to slow it down a little bit, and then I'm going to speed it up when I need to speed it up. You can control your destiny a little bit more, so you don't have to kill the company as readily. Although I'll caution you guys, EIRs, don't use that as a crutch, meaning don't drive a zombie. Don't drive a zombie company. If the company doesn't have any, I watch so many entrepreneurs.
No one to fold.
Exactly, no one to fold. Thank you. I watch so many entrepreneurs. You run a co-working space, Zach, Entrepreneur Hub. I used to run one. And there's, we had members, I love them. They're great people, but they'd be there year after year, and they're still working on something that they got no customers for, that they're kind of still struggling with. It's clear that they don't have product market fit. It's clear they don't know how to move it forward, but they like the title of entrepreneur, and they like to feel like they're doing something that's, meaningful. And I'm like, don't waste that energy. That's precious energy. Go find something else. Go solve a different problem, or take it and pivot it, find somebody who will buy it.
And I think the issue... you make a good point, Emery, and not to cut you off, but before I forget too, I was saying the biggest issue with that is they're keeping people in their circle that are yes mans, so the cheerleaders and the hypers are going to be the worst people for your business. People that are telling you like, oh, this is so great, it's so grand. It's great to celebrate the little wins, but me being very dry and cynical sometimes, I'm just like, I like to lay it out dry, and my clients can say that I'm being an ass or whatever, but at the same time, it's just like, I'm giving you the real deal. This is how it is. Like, you might fail, like I'm not going to sit here and gaslight you and tell you that everything is okay. when it's not, because you need to hear these, like truths, because if not, you're going to continue to dig yourself into the rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point. And I mean, our job as coaches, by the way, is exactly what you just described. It's to basically give you the hard truth, right? And so we're not going to let you, in this program at least,
right? We're not your cheerleaders.
Get away with just sort of coasting, right?
Yeah.
So
make me an advocate. Like, that's the big thing. Like, alleviate my concerns, prove to me and sell me on why I should be yelling from the rooftops about what you're doing, and why I will happily put my brand in alignment with what you're doing. If you can do that, that's the best place to start. Because, I mean, if you can convince sort of the three of us and the rest of coaches out there that what you're doing is on point, you know what you're doing, and you're the right person for it, great. We'll make sure that it goes far and it goes fast. Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks. I know we went way over today, but I think it was fun. We'll try to get it, it's a long time for anybody to sit through anything. So I'm guessing that there's probably nobody left, but other than us, other than the three of us, but either way, you know what? Thanks to anybody who's stuck around, and EIRs who are watching. Thank you for, all the work that you're putting into this stuff. It means a lot to the world. We all have to live in the future, but I believe that the stuff you're doing is actually going to make a big difference in the world. And you're also creating leadership for yourself, which is going to inspire everybody else. I'm glad that we're part of that journey with you. So we'll see you guys next Friday. EIRs, we'll see you next Tuesday, but for the show, we'll see you next Friday. Awesome, guys. Zach, pleasure as always. Paul, pleasure as always.
Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Everybody else, all the other coaches, all the other EIRs.
Nice to see you guys again.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye.